Imagine you didn't have breakfast this morning. How would that make you feel?
Hello, Sage. This is Cody. Or how? Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, 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 oh, yeah, check it out. Hear the echo in the night sky, with stars and headlights entwine. Tales of diesel and determination, living life beyond the white line.
There's a stretch where silence roars, sirens hum a solemn tune. Every journey writes a saga in the glow of the highway moon.
Stage outcast portrait, where the big lows, big roads meet.
Talking miles,
talking metal,
every ridge,
every ride,
every week.
Stage outcast portrait,
From the yard to the last white line.
if it's trucking and bones,
Deep hustle,
tune into that state of mind. Keep the fire
burning bright,
while the world
raise the night,
through the miles,
to the time.
we ride on.
In the endless climb. In the endless climb. In the endless
Sage. I'm sorry. Please don't record this.
All right. Camera up. I am back. It is Tuesday. We are back for another episode here going on. So we've got like a ton to talk about here. And it's not some good, some bad. Some I am going to predict the future. The future of trucking, logistics, brokering, all kinds of stuff going on. And we're going horizontal again. There's a horizontal thing we're going again. Listen, hit the like button if you would, if you come in, please. I ended up getting some yellows, and they knocked me out of the algorithm. But we're going to kind of talk about this, and we're going to move forward. So let's just jump right into it, because I've got a ton to talk about. Let me turn this on here. Oh, I got to move that around. Hang on, it's going to block the phone number, and you're not going to be able to see this. All right, let me do this. All right, let me start. Okay. Yeah, hello?
Hey,
What?
you are not Kevin Costner.
Very true. I am not Kevin Costner, but I am somebody with a virtual camera, which I have just turned on, and it is now on. Perfect. Fixed. Problem solved. I'm doing a lot of stuff going on here. All right. So here's what we do here, basically, especially today. We talk a little bit of news, geopolitics, logistics, trucking, business, all kinds of stuff. It's a call-in show. There's a call-in number right there on the screen. And somewhere on one of these multiple screens that I have is access to that call-in screen, which I've already seemed to have lost it. That's not it. Oh, Jesus, Mershevitz. Where is this one right there? I found it. I knew where it was the whole time. I really did. Okay, that's all fixed over there, but the phone number is not active right now. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with some fuel prices. We're going to talk a little bit what's going on with some trucking, some Supreme Court type stuff. Iran decided that, hey, I guess they're going to fight back. I'm not Jason Pote, and if anybody wants to know that truck diver, he is my man in the field. He is my Whopper eating, fed and paid for by Whopper, sort of like he'll gladly pay me Tuesday for a hamburger today. And just so you guys know, he is a big fan of the Impossible Burger. He tries not to admit it. Like when he walks up to the counter, he whispers, "Excuse me, can I have one of the Impossible Burgers, please?" Because he doesn't want everybody to hear. Unfortunately, the Impossible Burgers are made fresh, so they don't have them sitting there. So then what happens is they yell out, "One Impossible Burger, please!" So either way, he's caught. He's a closeted vegan. He doesn't want me to tell you that, but now it's out. He's out of the vegan closet. And He won't admit this, though, probably. Either way, he's currently muted, so we're good to go. All right. Let us continue on. All right. So we've had some craziness happen, and we've had some crazy people talking crazy things, and some people that I thought were sane also kind of talking some crazy things. So we're going to kind of talk about that. First things first, if you didn't know, this is Texas Trucker. Texas Trucker used to be a truck driver, but he's now out of the game. He has decided to leave and get a local job, and congratulations to him. It's probably for the best. But he is out of the game, but weirdly going to still be doing truck advocacy, I guess. I was kind of shocked, to be completely honest, because he always said that he was always doing the good loads. He was always doing the good loads. And he never took a cheap load, and he was doing great, and he had direct relationships and stuff. So I was kind of shocked that he got out of the game. But he's out. So moment of silence for him leaving the trucking industry. Okay, time's up. Okay. Now let's kind of move on to some of the other the things that are going on. So if you know this or not, you probably do. Fuel prices have skyrocketed. A little bit to do with this war that's going on with Iran. And like I said, I don't think the administration thought this one through. We would have made some better preps if we did. And I kind of posted this on another guy's page, and basically what he said was, well, wait a minute. I thought the president didn't have control of gas prices. No, not gas prices. But if you start a war with a country that kind of controls a strait that 20 to 30% of the oil goes through, and you don't make preps to place Navy there to protect, that could cause gas prices to skyrocket. So here's what we got going on. If you don't already know, and you probably do, but we're just going to go over it one more time. This is the Straits of Hormuz, right? I know I'm getting closer to pronouncing that right. These straits here, we've got oil to the right, oil to the left, basically empty to the left. No, empty to the right, full to the left. So ships here in the Persian Gulf, which we don't have any vessels in the Persian Gulf. The United States Navy does not have any ships in the Persian Gulf as of right now. I thought that was weird, actually. But I just found this out, to be completely honest. Now, they might be heading this way, but we don't have any as of right now. Now, over here, we've got a bunch of oil refineries, and these ships show up, and they fill up, and the oil comes from pipelines and gets filled right to the ships, and then these ships sail through this little passage right here. And, well, it's 21 miles. And then they get them out of here, and then they start shipping oil all over the world. You see that? That's the world right there, and all those little red dots are container ships. And this is brought to you by Marine Traffic. I want to thank Marine Traffic. Oh! We're going to talk about this in a minute. Actually, we're going to get involved here. Now, we also have another, and this is the WashingtonInstitute.org. So you can go to WashingtonInstitute.org, maritime, and you can actually see these guys are keeping track of the attacks that are happening on vessels. You see how we have a little predicament here? So these are all of the incidents that have been happening on vessels. So you can kind of click on this. Let me zoom in here. Let me zoom way more in here. This will tell you the vessel right here. You can click on this, and it'll tell you what happened. Description of the incident. While transiting, the ship was hijacked. This was like 2019, things like that. All right? So this kind of keeps track of all the incidents that are happening through this little area. Would you stop that? So if you go through these, you can kind of see that some of these ships are being hit. I don't know which ones here. With kind of like rockets or attack, things like that, or they're being hijacked, things like that. So this is another good resource if you guys want to kind of see what's going on with incidents. Let me see. Let me back this out. Do you see a little bit of is anybody kind of noticing where we have a little problem? Seems like it seems to be a focal point right around here when you pan out. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like there's a focal point in regards to problems with ships in this little area right here. You guys kind of seen that? So here's what's going on, just so you know why this looks like this. This is mostly due to insurance. Now, Donald Trump has come out and basically said, hey, just run it. Just hammer down. Go, 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 go.
Show some guts.
Give it some guts. Hammer down. Full speed ahead. And although probably some of these captains would do that because that's not a real huge fear to them, it's the insurance companies and the companies that own both the oil, natural gas, fertilizer, and the ship lines that basically own the ships that are saying, no. We're not going without insurance. We need insurance for this, make this happen, and we're not going without insurance. So what has happened is the war risk insurance has been canceled. Denied. There's too much risk of war, and I know we've named this war risk insurance, which makes sense, but there's too much war right now, and there's too much risk right now, so we're not going to insure these vessels. Too much. Now, understand insurance works a little bit different. How do I know this? Well, I'm a licensed insurance agent. We're going to talk about that later. You could have a 99%, like most of the time you're driving your car, you've got a good percentage you're never going to be in a wreck, right? Good percentage of that, right? But it's that 1% chance of it that the insurance is taking that risk on to pay out catastrophically, right? So well, I mean, some of you might think it's a lot of money, but compared to the amount that you can be sued for, you pay a small amount of money to cover your car and everybody that's in your car and cover the other person, depending on what insurance you have, for a possibility of getting into an accident and unaliving somebody, crippling somebody, something like that could happen. So that 1% risk is what the insurance companies, could be more, but I'm just giving you that, what the insurance companies are worried about, that catastrophic payout that they might have to do for oil cleanup, loss of life, ships, loss of oil, all the stuff that comes around this, right? So basically, they're saying it's too risky because we know these guys are firing rockets, and these guys have threatened to damage boats. It's too risky for the insurance companies to say, hey, yeah, we're just not going to, we can't insure that. And I know because insurance is such an exciting topic, well, it can be when the fact that insurance is now raising your gas prices to, I don't know, 30, 40, 50, 60 cents higher than they were like a week ago. That's kind of based on insurance. Now, the issue is that I've heard people basically say, hey, there's only about 20 or 30% of the oil that comes out of this area. Why is that spiking so high? Why is gas going up? Why don't we just make the oil here, or not make it, drill for oil here and do that? Well, oil is sold as a global commodity. It's a global commodity. So if you lose 20% of capacity, 20% of supply, all demand goes up. And when all demand goes up, everybody's oil goes up. So even if we were selling oil here in America, now our oil's worth a little bit more, isn't it? Because you've lost 20 to 30% of the entire capacity of the market. So now my oil's worth just a little more, isn't it? And I can, you know what I'm saying? It's worth a little more now. Just like if something were to happen selling widgets and all of a sudden 20% of the widget makers went out of business, or 30% of the widget makers went out of business, well, my widget's worth a little bit more money now, isn't it? Because you can't get widgets as many places as you used to be able to get them. So that's called supply and demand. And it's a funny thing that people have a hard time with, but I'm trying to help you out with it. I'm trying to help you out. All right. So we've gone over the marine traffic. We've gone over the Washington. You can see area of attack, ship type, and you can go over this. This is the, again, this is the WashingtonInstitute.org. I think it's maritime. Yeah, I think it's just maritime. You'll find it basically on there. So if you kind of want to keep track of any of the incidents that are happening, if you're, kind of this is Yemen. Over here, this is the Houthis that were also been hitting boats. Remember when they were hitting a bunch of boats over here? That's on here. Things like that. Okay. So we're going to go with this video first because I've got a couple of videos. I'm going to close, leave marine traffic open. Alrighty, let me. Oh, this is going to be way too fast because that's probably a 2-speed. It is a 2-speed. Let me back it down to 1.5. 1.5. We'll see if that works because she talks fast.
President Trump told CBS that this war with Iran was pretty much complete. He also called it an excursion several times. And interestingly enough, Trump made that statement right before the stock market closed for the day. The Dow Jones had spent most of the day down here. It was red pretty much all day. But then you can see right there, right before markets closed, Trump made that statement about the war being almost complete, and you can see, boom.
Boom. So as soon as we basically sense that, okay, it's over, we can get back to normal, stock market goes back up. Now, the problem is that the Trump administration are on two different pages.
Stock market rally, which ended the day in positive territory on the hopes that this thing would be over soon.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But it wasn't just the stock market that did this. It also happened in the oil market. See, most of the day today, oil was well over $100 a barrel. But then around that same time that Trump made that statement to CBS and the stock market shot up, oil prices at that exact same time plummeted.
Also is because today there should be a meeting. I don't know what time. I'll keep watch on that. Today there is going to be a meeting of G7 countries who are thinking about releasing their strategic reserves, oil. So that would also kind of drop some oil prices. It would put more oil on the market. Now, that's a limited thing, so they can do that now. But if the war continues to go on, that could be a problem.
Again, on the hope that this war would be over soon. But after the markets closed, when pressed by reporters at a press conference about...
Also, real quick, we've got some sponsors somewhere up here. There we go. We got some sponsors on the show. So, Search Carriers. Search Carriers is something that I'm going to be doing some commercials for this one, but if you're not using Search Carriers to look up carriers, if you're as a trucking company to monitor your own, as a broker to monitor other carriers, well, I'm using it as an insurance company too. If you're not using that, you're not doing it right. It is way. I mean, I know you can go to the FMCSA and get this information, but Search Carriers does so much more. You're gonna want to check it out. You're going to be able to see your carriers. You're going to be able to see your inspections. You're going to be able to see accidents. You're going to see all kinds of stuff in regards to monitoring carriers, especially if you're a freight broker. Like, obviously, I still have a freight brokerage, but I'm also a transportation risk advisor for an insurance company. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Also, we've got WEX if you're looking for factoring, and Oversight Insurance is basically the company that's the website for me, if you're looking to book a meeting with me in regards to transportation risk advisory or insurance, basically trying to get you the best insurance possible for open deck carriers, fleets. All right, let's move on. I'll be back to this stuff in a minute.
When this war with Iran would be over, Trump would not commit to a time frame.
This was just an excursion into something that had to be done. We're getting very close to finishing that too.
And you said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think so.
Okay, and with respect
very soon. Look,
very soon.
Everything they have is gone, including their leadership.
You've said the war is, quote, very complete, but your defense secretary says this is just the beginning. So which is it, and how long should Americans be prepared?
Well, I think you could say it both.
For?
It's the beginning of building a new country. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further. And we're going to go further.
Now, I don't know if that's clear to you, but it is certainly not clear to me when this is all going to be over. While Trump wouldn't give a time frame for when the war would be over with Iran, he said who would be behind that decision.
The rest is going to be a determination as to my attitude, along with the people in the Trump administration, what we want to do. Thank you.
In the meantime, oil prices are going up for you and me. Sure. Trump said he knows.
I mean, this was an excursion that a lot of people wouldn't have done. I knew oil prices would go up if I did this, and they've gone up probably less than I thought they'd go up. It doesn't really affect us. We have so much oil. We have tremendous oil and gas, much more than we need. We're in a very good position, but very unfair to other parts of the world, like China as an example. I mean, we're doing this for the other parts of the world, including countries like China.
So here's the thing. The president is right. We do have a lot of oil, and it doesn't technically impact us. Now,
True, very true. Now, we have a different type of oil. We have a lot of sweet oil, light oil, good for making fuel, good for making jet fuel, things like that, but more expensive. So a lot of people say, well, why are we import if we got all this oil? Because we can get, when a refinery goes to buy oil, they can buy sweet oil that's higher priced, a better oil, for them to refine to gasoline, things like that. Or they can be set up to get a heavier oil, a crude oil, which most other countries have, which is less expensive for the refinery to buy, right? So if you can buy oil, then at a cheaper cost, then you would buy it at a cheaper cost, but it's going to be a thicker oil. You just set up your refinery to be able to refine heavy oil. If you can refine heavy oil, you can refine light oil because it's easier.
So you're going to say, what do you mean it doesn't impact?
We pump our own oil. Why are the prices increasing just as excuse from oil companies to jack up prices? No, Bella. Give me a minute here.
Impact us, it impacts me. I'm paying out the nose at the gas pump. Yeah, you are. And the reason why is very simple. We have oil supply in the United States because we have oil. And spoiler alert, we get a lot of our oil from our friends up north in Canada.
We do. We get a lot of it from Canada.
But as I have reported literally for years, it does not matter because oil is a global commodity. And just because we have ample supply doesn't mean we're immune from what's happening on the global oil market.
Exactly. Global is sold as a global commodity. So if you're a U.S. oil company, you're going to sell that oil to turn a profit. You want to turn a profit. So you sell the oil for the cost that it's selling for, right? On the open market. Now, there are situations like Canada, who's a captured market. So a lot of times they'll have to sell their oil for cheaper, but it's sold as a global commodity. So the price of oil globally is $100 a barrel. It's down now, but I'm just going to use that. Then why would I sell it for any cheaper if I was selling American oil, which is even better because it's a light oil? Well, I wouldn't, because I'm here to turn a profit. I'm an oil company.
The global oil market and global supply and demand dictates the price for a barrel of oil throughout the globe. Not the United States alone, and certainly not the president of the United States alone. The fact is, right now, the global oil supply is being squeezed by the Iranians, who have effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
And basically, remember, even if I could, right now, 30% of the oil is being shut down. That makes my oil worth more. So it makes all of our oil worth more, right? Supply and demand.
Where about 20% of the world's oil is transported. And on top of that, a lot of the global oil supply comes from those Middle East countries that are literally being bombed by Iran as we speak. So they can't actually be pumping oil while they're being bombed.
True. This is another problem. So when people are like, well, OPEC's going to pump more oil. OPEC can't pump more oil. They're shutting down to protect their oil wells.
So what we are now looking at is an oil disruption on perhaps the biggest scale we've ever seen. And that's why oil prices keep climbing, and exactly why, when President Trump claimed that this war was going to be over soon, you saw those prices drop. Are you getting the picture of how it works now?
I am getting the picture. I am.
But here's the test.
What is the test? Oh, shit. I didn't study. Did any of you study? Well, you're not important.
We will have to see what happens tomorrow,
Oh.
now that Trump suddenly, after the markets closed, became non-committal about when the war would end. Now, the gas prices have increased about 50 cents in this country in just the last week. And even if Trump threw in the towel today and said, we won, war's over, we know that it takes a while for gas prices to come back down, especially after they shoot up so dramatically.
True. Why would gas prices shoot right back down? Now, remember, let me see if I can show you the pictures. Pictures! We need pictures! Okay, I got pictures. Okay, you got all these ships right here that are empty. These are container ships. Beep. And there's some more down here and so on. And then you have these ones that are full. Now, there's more in here, but what they've been doing is right here, the reason I can see this is this is a AIS. Basically, it's a tracking system that we can see these ships that are out there, right? Well, some of these ships that are in here have turned off their tracking because some of them have probably turned off their tracking and are trying to sail through, but the other ones have turned off their tracking and they're waiting. They're waiting for the approval to go, meaning insurance. Or the company basically saying, hey, I'm still going to wait it out. The insurance is too high. We're still going to have to wait this out. Okay. Now, here's the problem with this, and I've heard this before. Over here in this country right here, let's use Saudi Arabia. Hello, Saudi Arabia. In this country over here, these guys are designed to pump a lot of oil. Saudi Arabia sells a lot of oil. But there's pipelines that go through that go right to the ports. So they don't have a lot of storage to store oil. So at some point, if they can't get the oil to the ships, that means that they have no more storage. It's like, filling your coffee cup. You can only pour so much coffee in before you have to stop pouring coffee. Okay? So they don't have any more storage to store it. So either they fill ships or they stop pumping. They just can't. Where am I going to put it? They don't have endless amounts of tanks to fill on the ground. Okay. Let's go with this. What's it say? Politics, the art of using euphemisms, lies, emotional and fear-mongering to dupe average people into accepting, even demanding their own enslavement. Sometimes. Do you know how we fight that? We fight that by watching the Sage Outcast show. because here we learn the reality of things. But just thought it, or you fight indoctrination with education. Let that one sink in, right? All right, let's go back here. Hang on. Here.
Now, I mentioned the Strait of Hormuz being effectively shut down by Iran. That's because Iran says they will target any oil tanker that dares travel through that strait. Today, President Trump threatened that Iran better not.
And I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply. And if Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level. They'll never be able to recover.
Problem with that is sometimes the Houthis might be acting on their own discourse, right? They're terrorists. So although they get stuff from Iran, sometimes they'll be like, yep, we're not doing anything. Next thing you know, bloop, you get that missile flying over, and Iran's going to be like, no, we didn't tell them to do that. And next thing you know, it skyrockets prices again. All right, so these are the attacks. Good to hear. Okay, now, this is Glenn Beck, and I wanted to cover kind of the last part of his information. Because this right here, I thought I would, listen, I used to watch Glenn Beck, right? And some of the stuff I still watch because you got to be able to filter through some of the information and get out what you can, right? I'm trying not to be an echo chamber. I try to listen to a lot of the things that are happening, you know what I mean, on both sides, and kind of interpret my own opinion after doing, I hate the word research now. Everybody's like, do your own research. After kind of reading some other stuff and listening to some people in the know and going back and forth. That way I'm not kind of stuck in the echo chamber. Unlike Marlon Space on X, hope you're listening. So this Glenn Beck on this one put out something that I'm a little shocked that he put this out. And because at some point, I think people that don't understand, that are people like influencers like the size of Glenn Beck, I'm nowhere near the size of Glenn Beck, but influencers the size of Glenn Beck should probably, before they put out information, make sure that they either understand it or find somebody who does and brings that person on. Like I used to do. I used to interview people in the know. Now it's a little bit more difficult. Maybe it's me. It's probably me. Yeah, I think it's me. Maybe it's me. Anyways, it's probably not me, though. It's probably the other guy. Anyway, I feel like Tim Pool. It's not me. I'm a great-looking guy. It's all the other women. Okay, Tim. All right, so let me play. Oh, let me slow this down because this is probably going to be too. No, it's 1.5. All right, Glenn, tell me what you got.
Here, because we're going to pay for it one way or another.
Okay.
If Iran is neutralized, this is the big win. The scenario completely changes because the risk changes. Oil, the price of oil right now pays between $20 and $40 per barrel in risk alone because of that 21-mile stretch right.
No. Risk alone could be anything. Risk alone could be a boat sinking at sea. It could be a boat hitting a rock and dumping oil. It could be two boats running into each other. So risk alone is not just war risk insurance. Now, it plays a big portion of it, but all vessels are insured, and that's insured just for sailing the seas. It could be based on storms. It could be based, on things like that. So it's not just war risk insurance that they're insured for.
Right there with Iran.
Okay.
So oil could be down to, I've heard as low as $40 a barrel. If the United States would get back to a World War II position where we controlled the Straits of Hormuz, oil could be as low as $20 a barrel.
No, it could not. No, it could not. Because I want people to understand this for a second here. And I almost lost my mind. Well, I did lose my mind when I heard him say this. I don't know what year you're living in, Mr. Beck, but unless we're going to change the Constitution and bring back slavery, we have to pay people working at oil rigs. I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds crazy. We have to pay for things like casings, pipes that go underground, oil rigs, interest because guess what? Normally there's an interest rate on the money borrowed to start an oil rig, trucking companies to haul the oil. All these things have to be paid, plus insurance to make sure that there's not an oil spill. And if there is, it's covered. All these things have to be paid. There's no way possible oil could get down to $20 a barrel unless everybody involved is working for free. And I don't think any of the people in the oil field are going to work for free. Because I almost wanted to think to myself, does he only think that the only thing that... And then here's another thing. If oil gets down to $20 a barrel, who's going to pump oil? Why would you pump oil? All of your profit is gone. Like, legitimately gone. Right? Because if $20 in oil, a barrel, you're pretty much only pumping oil to maybe pay some of the people. Does that make sense? Like, what?
You know what $20, you know what $40, you know what $60 a barrel does to Russia? Russia collapses.
Well, we were just at $60 a barrel for months. I don't know if you know this, Glenn. Before this all happened, before we went to war with Iran, we were at $60 a barrel oil. Like, do you want to know what's weird? This is what's weird. Matter of fact, Glenn, this is an easy lookup. Crude oil prices. Oh, wait. You mean to tell me we can look this up? Yeah, we can look this up. So we can, wait a minute. We can go back to, well, this was just so you guys know, this was the oil crash of 2028. This was caused by the Trump administration. That's a whole nother story. We can go back, how many years is this? 2014. So let's just say, let's look 5 years. 5 years. Weird. We were at $60 a barrel, $65 a barrel, 70. This is where we were. Hang on. Matter of fact, since the start of Trump's presidency, we were at $70 a barrel. No. Yeah. $74 a barrel since the start of Trump's presidency. What's that? A year and 14, 15 months ago? We were down to 60. We had a spike, but to 65. We were at $60 a barrel for 14 months. Right? Am I right? January? Yeah. 13 months. Anyways, close enough. More than 12. More than a year. Let's do 1 year. 1 year, we were at $60 a barrel. So what does $60 a barrel do, Glenn? I know it's like crazy talk right here. Crazy talk. It's almost like he thinks the internet doesn't exist and that people couldn't look this up. It's weird. All right.
It collapses.
Collapses.
That's what that means.
But it doesn't collapse. We know it doesn't collapse because Russia still sold oil for less than $60 a barrel because they were sanctioned. They sold it illegally and it didn't collapse. Didn't collapse.
So risk disappears, insurance drops, shipping cost falls, China loses their leverage, Russia probably collapses. I mean, it's a good scenario. We just have to make it through there. And
it's a bad scenario because I'm telling you right now, oil companies in the United States, if oil dropped to $20 a barrel, no one is pumping oil. I'm not open. My oil rig companies won't pump unless it's $60 or more. And I'm in oil field logistics. I deliver oil field tanks to job sites. Justin's not here. Justin does oil field stuff. I'm telling you right now, if oil drops to $20 a barrel, which it hasn't been there since, I don't even know what year. We don't go back that far. I think ever. How can anybody turn a profit on that? I mean, we still have to pay U.S. people to go out and work oil rigs. They pay good money for that. I mean, I guess we could pay less money for that, right? We just have to pay less salary. We just have to pay cheaper wages to get oil down that cheap. But, anyways, I'm go to listen to Jeffrey Sachs and learn something. Well, I think I'm doing a pretty good job learning something. I think I do a good job learning. So that is basically his crazy talk. Crazy.
We either trust that our Navy can control that 21-mile strait or not. Donald Trump is...
We can't. We don't even have ships in the Persian Gulf. to be honest. We don't have enough distillers.
Betting we can control that 21-mile strait. It's just going to take us some time, but we can control it. If we can control it, then all of this changes dramatically. And you're not looking at California prices for oil or gas. You're looking at prices we have maybe never seen in our lifetime, or at least since I was very, very young.
Maybe. But then how do we pay the people working at the oil fields? Do we still pay them $28, $20, $30 an hour, $40 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever? I mean, I'm not all making $50 an hour, but some of the guys up there on the high end are. Like, do we still pay that, or do we bring in immigrants to work for $7.50 an hour? Like, what's the goal? What's the plan for the oil field jobs if we're down to $20 a barrel on profits? Because like I said, we still have to pay people profits, and then we still have to pay people, and then the oil companies still have to make a profit off of that. So if they can't make a profit off of $50 a barrel, and we're shutting down rigs, because remember, at $50 a barrel, we were shutting down rigs. And $20 a barrel is not an insurance solely for the fact of war insurance. It's for the fact of all insurance. Sinking ships, bad weather, running aground, collision on each other, which happens more than you think, oddly. As you can see, we've seen stuff like, I don't know, a bridge being destroyed in Baltimore. There's insurance for that. That's why ships are still going to have insurance. They're just not going to be need for war insurance if they're not traveling through war-torn areas of the ocean.
But it's going to take time. But that's what's happening with oil. Thank you for thinking.
Okay, thank you, Glenn Beck. Thank you for your okie dokie. Let's go into. Should we play this one? Yes, we'll do this one first, and then I've got time.
Actually, but the two actual reasons are pretty simple.
Oh, okay.
Market breakers as they sink.
All right, this is Big A. Take that any way you want to. Let's just play the video.
8% plus. We're seeing huge panic in the Asian markets, which means likely by the time you see this.
So $20 oil. What do you think about that? That's not a thing, Bob. Got it. My Bob button's not working.
Flip, or you're looking at the stock market on Monday, we're on a down day, we're on a red day. And even looking as a few days ago as a signal, the Dow just had its worst week since April. For two reasons that I blacked out. Now I know you guys are panicking because we're all worried about the Dow. Here in America, the only thing that matters is the Dow. We don't care about arresting pedophiles.
The Dow is over 50,000 right now.
Wow.
S&P at almost 7,000.
All right. Now there's two major reasons.
Yeah, under $40 a barrel is bad. Never mind 20. Correct. Because we want oil companies to be profitable. I know that sounds crazy, but if they're profitable, they're providing jobs. You see what I'm saying? They're not laying down rigs. They're selling oil. And I know we don't want, a lot of us don't seem to go after big business, but we kind of need big business.
That we're seeing all this chaos and tumult. I'm gonna go through both of them, but it may be a secret third reason, which is the Pam Bondi curse, because the moment she said this, the Dow went under 50,000 and has been in free fall. Okay.
Now remember, there's oil, and when everybody's like, well, it's $40 a barrel, oil is used to make a lot of stuff, man. A lot. Plastics and all kinds of stuff.
It's been absolute free fall from that moment. That was the peak. She top-ticked it, actually. But the two actual reasons are pretty simple. Jobs and oil. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, not Steve Jobs, but close enough.
Start with jobs. Jobs! Okay, there's been a pattern when we cover jobs reports here in the United States. I've covered almost every one on this channel, and there's a pattern. First, the jobs report comes out. Let's use last month. Let's use January's as an example. The jobs report comes out, and everyone's like, holy shit, it's actually good? Wait a minute. They always say stronger than expected. They always say a surprise surge. The labor market's finally turning around. They always go, oh my God, we're hiring is the photo. Wait, things are looking up. Then
there's a correction.
The Department of Labor comes out because it's become politicized and says January job growth shattered expectations. The Trump economy is delivering for Americans. By the way, the Labor Department never used to talk like this. Supposed to be an apolitical. Anyway, they say, oh my God, everything's looking great. Then all the news media backs it up. Trump gets a spot of good news from delayed January jobs report. It smashes expectations. Payrolls grow by 130,000. And they always bury in there that, well, okay, this report is great, but it also includes revisions to the last report we said was great. And those are way less. And so every single time I have to.
Every single time. I went back and checked.
I make a video usually like this is what I said last time, layoffs regularly. So please do not believe the fucking headline here that everything's down. I mean, nobody believes it anymore. No one believes it. And especially because they said we're not going to release the numbers, and they did release the numbers, and then there's something good. It all feels very massaged. But even the massage numbers show rising unemployment, only a few sectors of growth, and overall deterioration. So this has been a theme over and over and over. And I say these key principles, just like, hey, the headline number might be good, but very likely it's getting revised down. And the few areas that are still growing are hospitality and healthcare. Everything else is shrinking. So even if you trust these numbers, they're not so good. And this number is going to keep ticking up. I say the unemployment number. That's what I've been saying. And this is not some miracle prediction.
And the unemployment number is ticking up, oddly, as we're the hottest country.
Because
hottest country.
You see, the orange here is when it's revised down, and the blue here is when it's revised up. You'll notice.
Yes, absolutely. Plastic, Teflon, engineering, oil companies. Yes, tons of stuff are made by oil. Tons of stuff.
It's just been non-stop downward revisions for like 3 years straight. Like if the roulette wheel is red every time and I say it's going to be red, it's not some miracle, dude. It's just that you're seeing over and over again, they keep revising it down. By the way, though, this spot right here is when I made slowly all at once. And we're seeing downward, downward, downward. Now look at the last times we've seen consistent downward revisions in a row. 2020, 2007, 2001. 3 recessions. 3 recessions were the last time we saw in a row downward, 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 downward revisions. But the important thing about this jobs report is that it bucks this trend. Instead of being a good headline number that later gets revised down, this one actually made me worry. This one actually kind of broke the system. This actually feels like holy shit, because this one was bad right away. This one started bad. This one comes out and the headline number is 92,000 jobs down. Unexpected. All the headlines were like, this is so unexpected, so crazy. And what's even scarier is that, you know, at the very least, I thought, well, at least healthcare is growing. At least you can get a job on the new Scrubs reboot. If that show can't die, the healthcare industry is still a place where you can get jobs. However, even that...
Is there a Scrubs reboot? How's that possible?
Finally cracked. Healthcare jobs have carried the U.S. labor market for more than a year. However, in this one, healthcare and education jobs fell. For the first time, even that last pillar kind of holding up the non-AI sector of the economy from growing, cracked. So this is a horrible jobs report. And, you know, despite not really being shocking, based on what we've been saying in previous jobs reports videos, the overall media consensus is that this is a shockingly bad jobs report, especially for the first pass, because it likely will get revised down further from here, which means they're going to take a negative 88K number and make it worse. We're in uncharted territory. By the way, it also included revisions for those last jobs report we talked about. Both January and December got revised down. Okay.
Down.
Okay, this overall was one of the worst job reports I've seen. And you can clearly see when you zoom out that we're seeing a massive, massive, massive deceleration of the labor market. We're in a spotty, bad area. From here, if it were to get worse, that's unemployment that is chaos levels across America. However, that's a tough challenge. Thankfully, though, that's the only major challenge facing the American economy right now. There's nothing else that could be an exogenous shock.
We're good.
To cause anything to get worse. Thankfully, this is the only problem we have to worry about, because it would really suck if something else happened.
Oh, hang on. Back that up. Back that up.
That happened, then we'd have to talk about oil, which is the second reason I'm sort of waking up to panicins. Second reason I'm talking about serious problems facing the American...
Pancakes. Did he say waking up to pancakes? Pancakes sound great. That sounds great.
Economy 2026. Let's talk about oil. Now, a couple things we need to explain about oil before we move on. Oil is priced in barrels and sent around the world. And based on the price of a barrel of an oil, you can estimate certain things about how people in the economy will be feeling, because most economies run on oil. All major economies run on oil right now. If the price of a barrel of oil is between $40 and $60, smiley face, people are feeling good, okay? Gas is cheap.
People are feeling good. If we only had a chart that Glenn Beck knew about that went back... Oh, good. Yeah, we felt pretty good. 2016. Yeah, that wasn't bad right here, right? Got a little bit 2016. Well, a little bit high here. 2018. Oh, then we dropped down 2020. This is something different. 2022. Oh, okay. Oh, got it. Not bad. Not bad here, right?
Fertilizer is cheap. Plastics are cheap. Things are feeling. It's a stimulant for the economy. People just feel better. Things move smoother. It's big smiles. If a price
things move smoother. Get that? I got the pun. He didn't get the pun. I got the pun.
A barrel of oil gets to, by the way, this is where we've been. This area, maybe around 60, 65, but this is the area we've been in for the past few months, and it's helped cushion the blow of other economic...
Wait, past few months? Wait, but Glenn Beck said, could you imagine what would happen if oil was in the 60? Oh, damn it, we were in the 60 1 year ago. Yeah. Russia would collapse. It would be gone. It would shrivel up to nothing if we could just get oil down to $60 a barrel. Hey, Sage, what? We've been at $60 a barrel since April 7th. Of this year? No, it's not even April yet. Oh, of last year. So we've been 11 months, we've been at $60 a barrel. Oh. Okay.
Problems. If the price of a barrel of oil gets up to 70 or 80, that's a warning. Now, this is a really good spot for oil companies. They love this spot because...
Yes, because it's profitable. Especially in American, it costs us more to do oil probably than Saudi, but Saudi's close. But profitability for oil companies, they're like loving it at $70 to $80 a barrel because it costs them anywhere from $50, $60, $70. It's $50, $60 for them to turn a profit in regards to all of the things. Tariffs can affect the price of steel, if there's, which affects the casings and affects the pipe that goes in the ground, all kinds of stuff. Steel tanks to hold the oil. All this stuff gets affected. It's weird, but companies want to make profit, and the more profits they can possibly make, seems like the more they keep working. I don't know.
People grumble about it, people are angry about it, but it doesn't really cause too much political backlash, too much damage, and they get a lot of profit. Oil companies love this because nobody gets too mad at them, but they're still making money. So they
which is fair. That's fair.
Prefer not to be here, but this is survivable. It's just annoying. If it gets to $100 or more, that is panic. That is when gas prices start to become really pinching for the average person, along with a whole bunch of other knock-on effects we'll get into. $100.
Yeah, that's not so good. That's not so good at all.
$100 per barrel is a panic. And if you don't like hearing it from me,
because remember, we're not just looking at the price of gas. When oil becomes that expensive, the price of plastics go up. The price of Teflon goes up. The price of all of the things that are made with oil go up. They go up. They go up.
Because I'm an ugly streamer, and you want to hear from a famous professional actor. All right, well, I got the show Landman for you.
Well, you want oil to live above 60 but below 90. And don't get me wrong, we're still printing money at 90, but gas gets up over $3.50 a gallon, it starts to pinch. It hits 100, every product in America has to readjust its price.
So what could possibly be happening that would cause us to be talking about crazy things, outlandish things, like $100 a barrel oil? Well, it turns out this war in Iran has had some knock-on effects on the oil market, specifically regarding this little band of land called the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about it before, but it is becoming very, very much in play. Now, this video will show you what has happened to tanker traffic, because I want you to understand, 20% of the world's oil goes from all of these countries into this Gulf, and then it gets on tankers, goes to this tiny little
natural gas, fertilizers, bunch of stuff.
And it goes out into the world.
True.
So much oil goes out here. This is tanker traffic in the past few days. Very, very active, slowing down.
Rocking and rolling.
Slowing down, skirting the edges, and then basically non-existent.
Breaks.
Then basically a crawl. The oil is no longer flowing, which is going to have many, many, many knock-on effects, okay? Now there's still, again, as the oil price rises, all the tankers stuck in here really have an incentive to try to get out. It's very profitable to get out, and being stuck here is also losing them a lot of money. So a few of them do try to run it. For example, this ship turned off its transponder at midnight and went for it.
Yeah, transponders basically say, hey, my ship is here. Don't hit me, because it might, coming through fog and other stuff like that, and we can find ships. But they'll turn that stuff off, and they'll be like, I'm outie. Here we go.
To avoid getting struck. A few people are trying to do it. And because Iran has said they won't strike China has free passage. They said China is our ally and China can go through. However, Chinese ships are still not going through because they can't get insured. They're too scared to do it because if they do get struck, it's billions and billions lost. They are all stuck in the strait.
Yeah, because if there's somebody that didn't get the memo, hey, we're not striking any of the Chinese ships. What did the memo say? Shoot all Chinese ships. Okay. If somebody gets the memo and it gets it wrong, you never know. You got, Drunk Chris at the helm. Hi, I'm ready to shoot down some of those ships. Right out of the air. No, ships aren't in the air. Airships are in the air. No, we're not shooting down airships, Chris. Just man the guns. Got it.
However, it hasn't stopped other, less safety-minded tankers from pretending to be Chinese.
Correct.
Basically, 10 different vessels have declared themselves Chinese, changed their transponder, and made a run for it through the Gulf. The actual Chinese ships are again staying in the Gulf. No one, not even Beijing. The thing is, without the insurance markets functioning, no tanker will do it because the risk is so catastrophic. The amount of money you lose is so gargantuan. But a few of them are going for it as pretending to be Chinese. Again, this carrier right here, which is named the Iron Maiden and is from Japan, changed its name to China Owner and made a break for it while hugging this side of the wall. And that is a real world thing that's happening now. That's the difference between generational wealth or...
Now remember, again, insurance is not just for the war risk. They start hugging the shorelines, and they start breaking out of those channels, hoping to get away from that side, and they run aground. That could be just as bad. Because if you run aground and you block the entire channel, we could be doomed. Just so you know.
Being dead. It's pretty wild, okay? So, I made this slide a day or two ago, and Brent crude futures had hit $93 a gallon. We were approaching the absolute danger zone. And at that time, gas prices nationwide were $3.30, 32 cents nationwide, hitting highs of near $5 here in freaking California. Again, above $3 when it's a psychological thing where Americans start feeling really frustrated. $3.50 becomes a real problem. However, if you were to update this 6 hours ago, it broke 100. If you were to update it 5 minutes ago, it's like at 115. It's spiking as we speak. We're getting to really, really dangerous situations. Every dollar color that the oil barrel adds from here is compounding cost effects, basically widespread inflation on
No, let me turn the phones on. I'll turn the phones on. Hang on. Okay.
a lot of different things throughout the economy. Already, again, this is a day apart. Gas prices up 10 cents from yesterday. Now they're at $3.45.
Sonia?
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
Thank you, Sonia.
Probably by tomorrow we can see 350 plus. These things, for most, especially for Americans who have to drive everywhere because we have a car-focused society, or trucking-based delivery, have to buy diesel, become huge problems very quickly. Oil prices surged above $100 a barrel for the first time in 4 years. Now, the last time in recorded recent history where oil prices broke $100 a barrel was because of the Ukraine war. We're at Ukraine war levels, except we're at the very...
What?
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? That's not good. That's not good.
beginning, and we don't have an off-ramp. We don't even know where it's going. This is like looking back to the 1970s, where we had oil price shocks and an economic slowdown that led to deep, deep stagflation. 70s were one of the worst economic years for there in the middle. So it's starting to get like real. What I'm saying is we've had this theme where it's like, hey, the numbers aren't accurately reflecting.
Now remember, the war with Ukraine took a little bit of Russia oil off the market and stuff like that. It didn't block the straits, which is a problem.
How things are,
and nobody was striking Saudi Arabia and Iran and all this other stuff, oil-producing countries. They were kind of striking each other. Although they produce Russia oil, there was a lot of sanctions on Russian oil, so that's a little different.
Grading on the surface. But now it's like, hey.
It's almost as if they didn't plan for the unintended consequences.
I don't think they did. I don't think they thought this through. Now, again, logistics is hard, and understanding logistics, but logistics wins wars. Now, a couple things I want to say here. Even in regards to NATO, okay? Stay with me on this because I hear this all the time that we don't need NATO. NATO needs us. We make up NATO. Without us, NATO would be nothing. Now, one of the things that we just learned here, well, some of us learned, is we actually do need NATO because the best way to understand NATO is, I know we're not using it here, but the logistics of it is the same. One of the reasons we need NATO is although the United States is the hammer in regards to NATO, every other country are the nails. So one of the things that Donald Trump, the administration, got upset about, it doesn't matter, he's just upset about, was the fact that other countries didn't want to give us support. They didn't want to allow us to land our aircraft. They didn't want us to allow us to stage. They didn't want to feed our, they didn't want our ships coming into port to refuel, to resupply on food for the ships and things like that, right? That's the importance of NATO because logistics wins wars. So although NATO needs us as the hammer, if we don't have places to stage our soldiers, get them a good, safe place to sleep and things like that, rearm our ships, rearm our planes, refuel our jets, refuel our ships, stage tanks and stuff like that, we're kind of screwed because then the war is going to come to us. We can't go to the war. So a big part of the NATO is the fact that NATOing countries, we can force them, if they're a part of NATO, to allow us in if we did an Article 5 situation, which we didn't. I'm just saying that we kind of now are seeing that on a non-NATO perspective from certain countries. Kind of make sense? Okay. The other aspect is we didn't kind of think through, okay, if we hit Iran, what are the consequences? Or if Israel hits Iran, what are the consequences? Well, somebody from logistics should have came and said, well, it's probably going to put a strain on shipping through the straits because of insurance factors and ships getting, blown up. Plus, we torpedoed a ship. That could be a bad thing because that's going to also put possibility of war risk insurance in other areas because that was done in the Indian Ocean, not in the Straits. So we might want to think about that. Okay, well, how do we fix that problem? Okay, here's how we fix that problem. I know, this pre-stuff. What we can do to mitigate that problem is move ships into the Persian Gulf, and we're going to say that we're going to be doing drills with Saudi Arabia. We're going to make something up. Right? We're going to pretend. Before we start thinking about a war, we're going to start we're going to be doing exercises. Not like push-ups or anything, but maritime exercises with Saudi Arabia. Okay, good. What's that do? That allows us to position ships in the Persian Gulf and being able to do drills. So we can send a bunch of ships there, maybe an aircraft carrier, stuff like that. Perfect. Why do we want to do that? Because what we want to do is right now we're doing a knee-jerk reaction in the straits over here. This is a knee-jerk reaction. We already have a bunch of these ships built up. It's too many. It's too many now for us to escort properly. But we wouldn't have this buildup if we would have positioned ships in the Persian Gulf pre, because at that point, you would have never got the backup. You could have just kept the ships going at a better pace. Because again, if you just think about it, you don't want to be reactionary when it comes to stuff like this. Because it's what we call a bullwhip effect. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Have you tried turning it on and off again? No, I have not. But it calls a bullwhip effect. And we've learned from COVID that bullwhip effects are just as dangerous as completely turning it off. Even more dangerous. Now, why? Well, I'll kind of explain this. And again, logistics is difficult. A bullwhip effect gives you a false sense of security. It's off. Oh my God, there's a danger. Well, we turned it back on again. Okay, we're safe. Oh, it's off. Oh my God, there's danger again. Yeah, but we got it going again. Okay, we're good again. Right? Rather than just saying it's off and let's figure something out and let's assume it's not going to be turned back on again for a year, we need to do something different. That is almost a better approach than the on again, off again situation when it comes to logistics, because ports get backed up, which we saw during COVID. Because there's no ships coming in. We'll lay everybody off. Okay, well, there's ships coming in. Oh, bring everybody back. Okay, and so on and so on. So if we would have positioned ships pre, and we could have had them there. I know this is hindsight, and I know this shit sucks, but we would have known this from COVID. We could have kept a consistent flow of ships flowing through the straits while we were attacking Iran. If you're going to attack Iran, then you might as well make sure that everything flows smoothly. And then at that point, we could have had ships in position and we wouldn't have this buildup. And now there's almost too many ships to escort through at one time. And more ships are coming as more ships are leaving. And it becomes a lot more difficult to keep that consistent flow rather than that bullwhip effect, the ups and downs. Okay. That would have been a better approach. Now, that's a logistical thought, and logistics is hard. I've been in it for, Jesus Christ, since I was a wee little boy.
Has gotten to the surface, and we're throwing kerosene on the fire.
And although I've blown motors, I've never blown a tranny. So that's a good thing, shifting gears. You know what I'm saying?
Like, it's starting to get bad. I don't want to undersell. The combination of a slowing economy and an oil shock is painful for people. It is like a serious problem.
Allegedly.
And we're already seeing people
Allegedly. That is a true statement also.
complaining. Even in my subreddit, which is not about gas prices, I saw this. This guy's talking about how gas prices have risen 80 cents. Of all the things Big T is doing, this is legit the most noticeable. Again, for many Americans, every political story they can ignore. But when it hits gas prices, then they start getting real angry, bro. So there's a couple angles I can talk about this with. Obviously, there's the American angle, but I do want to mention what's interesting is the impact this is having over in China and what this means in China. So let's talk about Xi Jinping real quick. Xi Jinping, a couple things. Actually, before we talk about Xi, we'll just say the global economy has never consumed more oil. Whatever you may hear, we are at peak oil consumption right now.
True, because we've also have never had so many people, right? Makes sense, right?
So a cutting off of 20% of the world's oil will impact every country on Earth. Doesn't matter whether you use the Strait of Hormuz or not. It's going to be a total impact. We are oil maxing right now, and it's going to be a problem. But a couple interesting things are the United States and China who are impacted. So with China. The Strait of Hormuz, it has these 5 countries going into it and these 6 regions going out. This is where the trade happens in Hormuz, okay? Here, if you want to see it better displayed, I'll look like this. And the biggest recipient of Hormuz oil is China. So they're most immediately at risk because
True.
They're the ones losing the most directly from this being closed. China, India, South Korea, Japan, Asian.
But again, Iran's like, yeah, no problem. Now, there are other ways to get oil from China gets oil. China is going to get oil from Russia. They're going to get oil from Iran. They're going to get oil. Matter of fact, Trump is even thinking about lifting sanctions on Russian oil. Oh, no. Hang on. Is it G Captain? Yeah. Trump is even thinking about Trump weighs Russian oil sanction relief. So he's even thinking about saying, yeah, those sanctions, don't worry about those. Let those go. So he's even looking at possibly getting rid of sanctions on Russian oil.
Countries will feel the most immediate.
Now, who's that going to help the most? Definitely China. Definitely China. And Iran. And Russia. Basically.
impact because that's who directly gets the oil. The U.S. doesn't get a lot of oil directly from Strait of Hormuz, but because these countries still need oil, they just start buying from anywhere they can get it, which drives the price up everywhere. So
yes, see what I'm saying? That's the supply and demand thing.
Even if you're not directly receiving the oil, understand that we're still going to feel higher gas prices here at home. And again, for all...
Because remember, we might be selling our oil to people to the highest bidder. If you want to pay for it, yeah.
China has done to electrify and build nuclear. And
now the highest bidder is usually, I'll take 1 billion gallons. Obviously, that's a big number. Compared to somebody that might say, well, I'll only take 1 million gallons. You get the gist.
When I try to find ways off of oil,
barrels.
They are still currently at peak oil demand. And not until the 2030s or later do they plan to actually reduce that. So they are currently at their highest level. This has caused some problems within China already. Like this Hormuz closing. They're reacting immediately. First thing they're doing is leaning on Russian oil. They have a good relationship with Putin. They've been buying Russian oil. Now they need to buy more. This does change the calculus a bit because before Putin was desperate to sell to them and now China's more desperate to buy. So the winner is likely Putin here who gets to demand more. That's
weird, right? Weird. It's a little weird. Now remember, Russia and China are, according to the Pentagon and the administration, are offering intel to Iran on where our ships are. Now, because they can't really offer any type of soldiers or any type of stuff like that because they're kind of in their own little battle with, Ukraine. But they can offer intel, which they are. So you have Russia and China offering intel to what we are now calling the bad guys, which they are. Iran's definitely not good guys. But we're definitely calling them the bad guys of the war because we're the good guys. And now Russia and China are offering intel to the bad guys. So now I just want to make sure I get this right because I would assume that would make them the bad guys also, right? Okay.
The calculus.
Look, I'm not saying that we should not have gone to war. This is not that type of podcast right now. I'm not bashing Trump in any way. I'm just telling you logistically what's going on. Now, this could have been anybody that didn't think this through. There was lots of times that I was screaming at the Biden administration in regards to their logistical handling of COVID, but because I know logistics. So that was kind of where I was screaming about back then.
Shifts the balance of power between those two on oil. And the second thing is China's been urging its refiners to suspend all fuel exports. This is an immediate reaction, kind of out of the normal. So they're basically saying oil's not leaving the country. Stop exporting any oil. We're keeping it here. There's going to be a bit of a crisis. So that's their reaction. Here's the thing. And so again, I would say China is probably more impacted oil-wise than America is because America has larger oil production and is a small recipient of Hormuz. But here's the but. And this is why I want to talk about intelligent leadership, calculus, putting some thought in. But over the past year, which country of the two do you think has been buying millions of barrels of cheap oil to prepare for a crisis like this? Do you think it's...
I'm going to say, I love this game. What's it start with? Start with, what do you think? Did he say what it started with? Did anybody see what it started with? No? Okay.
Lithuania.
Balloons. Bobcat. No. Let me try something. Don't take that one. Never mind.
The one
Disney World.
Disney World. No, that one was taken already. God damn it. If that's the answer, I thought of it first, but truck driver said it first. What's the answer?
Should know it's coming or the one that didn't? China has never stocked more oil in their history.
No, I didn't get China. Damn it.
In the past 2 years, they have been non-stop. Yeah. We've been at peak cheap oil. So
that was my next guess.
Was it your next guess? It was probably it was my first guess, but I didn't go with it. So I don't know. We'll have to go from there.
Millions and millions of barrels, about 1 million barrels a day in 2025. So, I criticize many things with Xi Jinping, but they clearly saw some disruption coming and have prepared for it. They have a huge petroleum reserve. This becomes strategic leverage. These stockpiles are important. Again, million barrels a day. At the same time, I get frustrated with my country's leadership because Trump, during the campaign, promised over and over again to refill the strategic oil reserve. He said he would immediately refill it. This is at a rally in 2024 before he got elected, August 24. When he got elected, during his inauguration speech, you can look it up. He said, Joe Biden drained our SPR and I'm going to fill it back up to the tippity top. Direct quote from his inauguration. However, it's been a year and he did not do it.
Well, depends on what you mean by tippity top. Tippity top of the middle? Because that's where we're at. We're at the tippity top of the low middle.
So all of a sudden, that leaves us exposed. What's crazy, though, is that we can't say, well, we couldn't see this coming because we're the ones that caused it.
A little true there. That, again, logistics. That could have been a logistical situation.
Why would you not refill a strategic reserve that's going to guaranteed spike oil prices if you know you're going to be the one causing it? It's unreal. We've had a year of the cheapest oil in almost a generation to buy.
What? Cheap oil? Glenn Beck said that $60 oil would crush Russia. God damn it, Glenn.
But neither China nor America are particularly benefiting from this. Obviously, almost no country on earth is. I'll talk about the knock-on effects in a second. But almost everybody, no matter where you live, is going to feel the pinch of higher energy costs as a result of the Strait of Hormuz closing. Except
now, I do have a man on the road reporter in a truck diver. We talked about him a little bit earlier about the home of the Whopper. Truck diver yesterday, and I want to talk to your buddy named Steve. You got to find me Steve. Bring me Steve. We all want to talk to Steve. But truck diver brought me, I can't show the Steve thing. You just have to come to Discord. If you guys want to join the Discord, you got to join the Discord, because that's where if you think we're having fun here, you should join the Discord. He stopped me a thing of $4.99 for diesel prices. And where were you, truck diver?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. And that's definitely gone up about $1.50.
It was $3.49 before all this happened.
$3.49. All right. Thank you.
for one country. One country really is coming out like a bandit. And that again makes me question the calculus of this. That's Putin. Russia has never had a better outcome than this. The big winner from the Gulf energy crisis is Russia. They were in a bit of a crisis mode with oil being record cheap and the costs of the war in Ukraine dragging on. This gives them a lifeline. This gives them negotiating leverage against China, and this gives them a massive oil price to make huge outsized profits.
Almost oddly weird that they didn't come to the defense of Iran. It's almost like they thought about the logistics of this and thought to themselves, wait a minute. If we go to war with Iran, oil prices are going to spike. People are going to need our oil, and they can't bash our oil price down to zero. I mean, it's not zero, but you get my drift. So that means our oil is going to be worth more to these countries over here, like China, who buys a lot of oil. Wait, I think this might be a good thing for us Russians.
Again, on top of this, because America and Trump administration is so scared about
and China,
the political effects of rising oil prices, they are reprieving Russian oil sanctions. Like, what? We're literally we spent all these months convincing India to not buy Russian oil.
What?
What do you mean by that?
Oil, and then they started, we go, okay, yeah, you can buy it. Not just buy Russian oil. We gotta get the prices down. So it's like, you understand how the effects are poor. But if it were just oil prices, you might say, all right, well, look, I don't even drive that much. I sit home and watch twitch.tv. I watch YouTube clips. I don't care. I'll survive this. And I want to say that it can very quickly turn from an oil crisis to an everything crisis, because gas prices are only one dimension this affects you.
True.
Another major one globally is fertilizer.
No.
40% of the nitrogen fertilizer goes to the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes. But I'm vegan, so I just eat leaves and sticks. So I'm good.
It's a major source. So all of a sudden, we're seeing massive worry in the farming industry of how much they're going to plant their crop for next year.
No, wait a minute. Let me think that through. I might actually have a problem with that because I think I eat other things.
You go to websites like Farm Policy News and AgWeb and Farm Journal, they're all screaming crisis. You don't see these things, they're not mainstream, but all of them are going, wait a minute, we have to shrink our corn planting. Huge bread baskets in like India and Asia are having to cut back on their planting because fertilizer is not what they expect. The price has gone way up. Fertilizer price is up 71%.
Corn? I don't need corn. I can live on peas and bread. So I don't need corn because I don't eat cornbread. So I think I'm good.
In 90 days. Additionally, maybe you like to travel. Well, what's rising faster than gas prices? Diesel and jet fuel.
Oh, well, I don't fly. I'm fine. I don't fly. Still fine. Diesel. Ooh, diesel could hurt me. I'm in trucking. That could be a problem.
Jet fuel price has doubled.
Listen, my ilk all believe that could be a problem. And if you know, you know.
At this level, planes start grounding. We start stopping flights. Smaller airlines go out of business.
Wait.
Can you imagine being a farmer and knowing you voted for this twice?
Twice. No, actually. No. That would be bad also. And the problem is if we start grounding flights, just so you know, mail and like next day air ain't coming by truck. If you ship something next day air from, well, there's no next day air out of Maine. Well, at least not in my area, Maine, but probably out of Bangor. If you ship something next day air from Bangor, Maine to Los Angeles, California, that next day air is done by planes. And it's done by a lot of different planes. Sometimes cargo planes, but sometimes passenger planes that have a lot of packages in the hold. Like you people flying in those planes, you're important, but you're not as important as the packages that are actually paying more for that plane than you are.
This is like a normal reaction when prices get this high. Shipping slows down. All the trucks that can ship goods across country, those start.
You should talk to Bella, because Bella, she's been surrounded by these farmers that voted for it twice. She's surrounded by them. She's trapped. Bella, don't get captured.
To not be profitable at the diesel cost. They stopped going. Like everything starts to choke off and slow down, which leads to job loss and further economic slowdown. I'm not exactly.
You're all whining about American gas prices. My expat living in Switzerland, gas here is $8 a gallon. True. Wait till it goes to 16. Then call me back. Matter of fact, I even have my phone number on the screen. Right, Sonia?
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast?
Yes, that's me. But you're $8 a gallon. You convert that after U.S. dollar conversions like 52 cents. No, it's not, but you get my gist.
When I say if this holds for a long enough time, it cripples the global economy. We have built everything around cheaper oil. If it gets too expensive, things don't function. I want to give you a third example. Okay, now let's say you're a country like...
Gas prices is the reference we can all see. You know why gas prices are so important? One, it's a reference that we all experience. We all drive vehicles. Some of us ride bikes. But it's one that we can physically see the outcome. Like you might not see the other or realize that the cost of something has gone up that is made out of oil, like plastics. You might not see that cost go up because it's baked into the cost of the overall item. There's very little in gas prices. Everybody kind of realizes that oil affects gas prices. So you don't see all the ingredients that are baked in. So it's easier for us to acknowledge the fact that, holy crap, gas prices are going up and oil prices are going up. That's a reference. So it's just that breakdown in the mind, I think. And I could be wrong, but I think it's that breakdown in the mind that it's easier to reference the oil to the gas compared to the cost of shirts going up because of the price of the fact that there's oil in something.
Wait, and your business model is you pump oil out of the ground, you put it on a boat, you send it through here, and sell it to these countries. If you can't sell it through here, what do you think the second order effect is? The second order effect is you run out of place to put the oil.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to explain. You run out of places. They have pipeline. It's almost like he watches my show. Bro, are you watching my show? It's these pipeline. He's probably not. These pipelines, you run out of places.
Because you can no longer ship it anywhere. You don't have the storage facilities, which means if you run out of storage, you have to shut down production.
You don't even have a car. Listen, I hope the price of oil to oil your bicycle chain goes up. How about that? I bet you your oil and your bicycle chain less. Actually, I'm probably going to have to oil my bicycle chain. I know you're all looking at me like, Jesus Christ, the last thing we want to do is see you on a bike. But I've lost weight. I have lost weight. I think I'm down to 205. No, I'm 5'8".
I feel bad for the bicycle.
I swear to God. Are you even... You're fired!
This already happening.
For quite a while.
No. I didn't even know you were in here.
Had to stop drilling. That's not pumping.
If you're a vegan and hasn't lost weight, something's wrong.
Listen, it's not about what you eat. It's about the calorie intake and outtake. I've got a lot of intakes of other things, like Oreo cookies, potato chips, pancake. Oh, where was I? What were we doing?
We're talking about oil.
Oil. No, yeah.
And that
olive oil, grapes. Oh, hang on.
That is a problem because shutting down an oil well has long-term damage and very high restart costs. Just turning it back.
Donuts. Stop it.
Back on can take weeks, which means even if somehow magically the Iran war were resolved tomorrow and there was no
Whoppers.
risk in the Strait of Hormuz and everything was perfect, a lot of the production wouldn't even be back up to speed for weeks. And that's if it stopped tomorrow, which is not likely. If this stretches on for weeks and weeks, the amount of shutdown in oil production in the Gulf is going to be massive. Do you understand this can cascade? I'm not trying to exaggerate here. I'm trying to paint a real picture of how this oil crisis could very quickly become a worldwide economic crisis. And people are talking like oil at $200 a barrel is no longer out of the question. And $200 a barrel is a level we haven't seen. That's something we're built for. It's like whenever, this is a weird example, but it's like when it rains heavy in Los Angeles.
Me and Truck Driver are going to be doing the 100 push-up challenge. Truck Driver, what are you up to?
One.
Yesterday was none, but we're going to be doing the 100 push-up challenge. Me and Truck Diver. Now he's like 6'5" and like, I don't know, 32 pounds. But what do you weigh, Truck Diver?
No, I'm 6'2" and 220.
Yeah. See, I'm 5'8" and 205. So he's shut up, truck driver. Let's move on. Listen, these ratios don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing.
Los Angeles. The drivers in the city aren't built for it, dude. It floods everywhere and everyone drives like shit and crashes. Like, people aren't built for it because it doesn't happen here. The world is like that for expensive oil. People can't, businesses aren't built for it. And so when Donald Trump comes out and says prices, which will drop rapidly when this is all over, it's a very small price to pay and only fools would think differently, I have to question the rationale of his strategy.
I'm a fool.
I gotta warn you, not even is he wrong economically, but I think he doesn't even fully comprehend how bad this is gonna be politically. Even Republicans who are savvier are noticing Americans have a very limited tolerance for pain at the pump. So what I'm saying is, unless he's got a plan to subvert the election,
All right, we're going to move on from there because it's almost over, and I'm at 9, and I have to move on to the second carrier, which I'm now recording. Okay, we're going to move into a little bit more of the logistics. I already covered this. Just so you guys know, some ship lines, even cargo ships, are going to be terminating their voyages, taking their cargo, taking their containers back, and saying, hey, come get this stuff off my ship. Come get this off my ship. I did get a haircut. I cut them all off just to keep my weight down. Better aerodynamics when I'm doing push-ups. So we are, just so you guys know, so let me play this.
Company is diverting all cargo destined for the Arabian Gulf region to safe ports due to the war in Iran and levying an $800 charge on shippers to cover the termination changes. For the current Middle East situation, MSC on March 3rd has issued an end-of-voyage declaration for cargo, whether still ashore or at sea, billed to ports in the Arabian Gulf. The order, which extends to empty containers already released for stuffing that were intended for export to Gulf ports, diverts to the next safe port of discharge. Cargo will be discharged and placed at customers' disposal.
So basically, if they picked up some ships or empty containers and they were going to load this stuff, they're taking it to the next port and they're kicking it off. They're like, yep, canceled. We're canceling this voyage. Sorry, too dangerous.
For local delivery and recovery, MSC said. The order comes after military forces from the United States and Israel attacked Iran February 28. Tehran responded with drones and missiles against ports and merchant vessels in the Persian Gulf. Iranian forces have all but closed the Strait of Hormuz to global traffic at the Gulf's entrance, though some locally based ships continue to make transits. Geneva-based MSC has imposed a mandatory surcharge of $800 per container on all affected shipments to cover deviation costs. All discharge-related expenses such as handling and storage are the responsibility of the shipper. Per the Bill of Lading Terms, which includes a clause for special circumstances, customers seeking onward forwarding are required to do so through new booking through their usual MSC agency.
All right. That's basically what they're saying is they're saying these container ships, too dangerous. We're kicking this off. We're charging you, because ship lines can charge for anybody about just about anything. And you're going to have to handle this. Figure out how to get it back because we're not doing it. We're not hauling it. So that could be bad. All right. Let's do this first. Let's do a little bit of what's going on in the freight logistic market, kind of a trucking owner-operator carrier type information. Okay. We, logistically speaking, welcome to the logistics part of the show. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Sage, and we will continue on forward. Donuts. Stop it. All right. So right now, this is the freight market. Now, freight is and I tried to explain this to somebody else on YouTube, Grid, and Grid just, for not being in shipping, he seems to know. It's amazing how very little he knows, but thinks he knows so much. It's kind of weird, actually. I found it, oddly weird. I wouldn't go to a brain surgeon and act like I know so much about brain surgery and know very, 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 very little and expect to be smarter than the brain surgeon. But Grid seems to have that natural ability, which I find kind of weird. And it kind of comes from one of those things like, well, listen, I buy things on Amazon, so I know shipping. Okay. This is the overall market. Now, the overall market kind of tells me it's one of the first ways to read the economy. Is the economy good or is the economy bad? And that I usually base that on freight volume, not just capacity. Because although you could be losing capacity, trucking companies could be going out of business, the freight volumes might not be picking up, okay? So, and a lot of times, obviously, if freight volume is low, we lose trucking companies because there's just not enough freight to go around, and freight moves very cheaply, and so on, so on, so on, so on. So, in regards to freight volume, well, things could change rapidly with any type of, kinetic conflict. But anyways, freight volume was about the same. But capacity, meaning the overall market, how easy it is to find a truck, has gone up. Because a lot of trucking companies have either left the market, got out of trucking, like I talked about when I first started the show. Texas Trucker, he's another trucker that has a CDL, but he's left the market. So we have a driver shortage. We don't have a CDL holder shortage. I have a CDL still.
I think he left because of Biden, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did leave because of Biden. That's what he said. Jenny has a CDL, but she doesn't drive. Truck Diver has a CDL. He barely drives. Justin pretends like he drives. He's just
allegedly.
Well, yeah. And Justin is just playing video games all day. American Truck Driver, he's just playing that video game. He says he's driving, but I caught him one time when the power went out, and I don't think he is. So we do definitely have a driver shortage. And people don't want to debate me on that, but when I try to explain it to that way, that I think they understand, even though when they're done talking to me, they'll go back to saying we don't have a driver shortage because they're stuck on that algorithm. Anyways, so the overall market is in the neutral area, which is better because, trust me, it was in the green here, which is a very soft market, and that's not good for drivers. Easy to find a truck, which means freight brokers and shippers can move freight very cheaply because it's very easy to find a truck, but not good for the overall market to keep, because we need prices like gas prices. You don't want gas prices to be 50 cents a gallon, because that means that we're not pumping oil because oil is way too cheap, and you're putting a lot of oil field people out of business. Oil rigs are being laid down, and then when the price starts to come up again, it's going to be even more expensive. It's called the bullwhip effect. So you want a consistent price, a consistent market. The neutral market is actually a good place to be. Nobody wants it so expensive that we can't find a truck, because that raises the price and raises the price of all of the goods that are shipped by trucks. But it's good to have a consistent market, a consistent price. I would prefer to see all the markets in the neutral area, to be completely honest. That's beneficial for both shippers and truckers and freight brokers and consumers. But we're not. We're not. Now, reefer's starting to step up. Here's another fear I have, too. I'm going to talk out loud here. I'm just kind of piecing this through my head. A lot of times, van carriers during the produce season, which we're not there yet, but I'm kind of pre-thinking this out, and flatbed drivers during the produce market will drop their flatbed trailers and drop their van trailers and pick up reefer trailers to pick up produce. I don't know what's going to happen in that season. So this produce season as a reefer carrier, because flatbed is so good, this might be a decent something to think about. If you're hauling a reefer, if flatbed doesn't change and it stays very tight, which we can see very tight right here, harder to find a truck, you might be even better in that reefer market. You might be even better in that reefer market because they're not a lot of flatbed. I know a lot of my flatbed carriers, because produce season's so profitable, they'll drop their flatbed to go grab a reefer trailer. Just saying. Just something to think about. I'll kind of think about that a little bit more. Also, I did talk to Ken Adami, who works for DAT, and although he cannot confirm or deny that it's the hot shots, him and a few of his buddies, which puts me in a kind of an elite squad. But unfortunately, it's an elite squad of freight nerds. So I really don't know if that's any beneficial to me. It's not like I'm in a squad of people that are going to. Well, maybe we can save the day from a point of freight nerdiness, but we're probably not going to be the ones defending the country. Anyways, let's move on. Hey, logistics wins wars. I'm important too. Anyways, he has probably confirmed also that we believe a lot of this capacity crunch in the flatbed market is from hotshots. A lot of hotshots that are leaving the market, meaning 350 pickup trucks with 40-foot trailers, or 250 pickup trucks with 40-foot trailers. Especially if it's a non-CDL hotshot driver, who it's very easy just to drop the trailer and use their truck for the everyday driving. Because it's a 250, right? People own 250s all the time, or even a 350. Because he's not seeing a lot of other flatbed leaving the market, but it's very hard to determine if they're just hot shots. But he's confirmed that I'm probably right, that it's hot shot equipment that is leaving the market rather than standard 48 or 53-foot flatbed equipment. Anyways, okay. National rates. Let me make this bigger. All right, so the rates are still up. Kind of van is still at 241. Not really a lot of change there. Flatbed is at 286 spot market rates and 284. 284 reefer, down about 8 cents on reefer, but still going up on flatbed, tight capacity. Okay. The chart below is the volume, a measure of the national truckload freight demand. The takeaway from this chart is that the volumes are slightly higher at this time than the year prior. So they're not a lot. So this is kind of where, like I talked earlier in regards to, you kind of see this white line, this circle right here. It's just a little bit higher than last year and definitely more higher than the 2023. But again, like I talked about, volumes are the same, so it's not like the economy is booming compared to this time last year. It's the same, but capacity is still crunching out. So that, to me, tells me that we're not seeing a large amount of volume coming into the market. We're just seeing a lot of trucking companies that are basically saying, hey, I've had enough. We got to get out. We can't maintain this. Like, legitimately, right now of March, we should be doing better. We need to be doing better, to be honest, because
We're tapping out because there's too much winning.
There's too much winning. Yeah, definitely too much winning. When you get this much winning, it starts to look like losing, I guess, because right now, we're not reaching for the last 3 years, rates have been crap. Well, at least 2 of them, definitely, but have been crap. And almost 3 years now, we've been in a freight recession. Sorry, not a truck recession, but a freight recession. So we really need to start to see this kick off and go up. To be honest. All right. Let me do this one here below. I can't even read this because it's... All right. Below is the truckload rejection rate. Is this for flatbed? The takeaway here is that available capacity is significantly tighter to start the year prior than the last 3 years. Is this just flatbed or is this... No, this is overall, but flatbed's in there too. So truck rejection means that there's not enough trucks to go around. So we're starting to see consistent freight truck drivers or trucking companies falling off of freight because they don't have the equipment. So this is pretty much tells me that, like I said, capacity is leaving the market. Trucking companies are shutting down the doors, or trucks are not being replaced. So rather than a truck that they're like, hey, that truck, it's time for that truck to go, we're just not going to replace that truck. Just leave it in the yard. We'll find a driver next month. Right? So that could also be it. All right. Rejection index by mode. Flatbed, green. What is red? Green is reefer and dry van. Van is dry van. I swear to God, I'm going to have to tell him to fix his English here. I think... Is it red is dry van? I think red is dry van. All right. For the love of God. The takeaway is 3 times... harder to find a flatbed than a van. 3 times harder to find a flatbed than a van. So, like I said, I think a lot of that is due to we started to use a lot more hot shots after COVID. A lot more pickup trucks with 40-foot trailers because they were still a 40-foot of deck, and you could still move it for a cheaper price because a 350 dually is cheaper than a tractor trailer, and they could keep their costs down. So we were finding ways to better serve our customers by using smaller equipment. And that played a big role. And then those hot shots, unfortunately, are the first to leave the market because they can only haul so much weight and only haul so 40 foot of deck, so they don't have the capacity to do more, right? So I think they're the first ones leaving. Okay, this is the truck diver section of the week. The largest weekly diesel prices increase by MSA. Below are the charts of the largest weekly increases. Now, this is brought to you by Biden. Actually, Steve said he hopes it goes down quick. And then when has that ever happened? And he says, well, there's a first for everything. True, but weird. Anyways, here we go. Laredo, Texas. Number 1, Actually, we're going to start down here. I've already cheated. We're going to start at number 10. Number 10 is going to be McAllen, Texas, at $1.23 jump. Burlington, North Carolina, 124 jump. And if you want to know how much it is, $4.48 in Arlington, Texas, $4.75 in North Carolina. Corpus Christi, $4.49, $1.25 jump. Brownsville, Texas, $4.47, down there at the border, $1.25 jump. New Haven, Mississippi, $4.45 a gallon, $1.30 jump. Arkansas, $4.39, $1.32. Rock Mountain, North Carolina. North Carolina, you are getting popped with some, you've made the chart 5 times. It's not a good chart, though, so you've made the chart 5 times. And we're going to be going with Rocky Mountain, $4.92 and $1.40. Greensboro, North Carolina. Goldsboro, North Carolina, $4.80, $1.40. Greenville, North Carolina, almost $5, $4.94, $1.41. And Laredo, Texas, number 1 with a $1.48 jump. That's $1.48. That's a gallon, boys and girls. That's $1.48 a gallon. I mean, if you were paying $1.99 a gallon and it jumped basically $1.48 a gallon, you'd be like, holy McKevitt. Anyways, all right, what do we got? Civilian unemployment rates, seasonal adjustments. We just talked about that. We had a bunch of seasonal adjustments. We had February of 2020 was the biggest spike. That's when we brought everybody back from COVID. We're not looking too good here.
Breaking news.
Oh, remember, I'm LinkedIn, so try to stay professional. What you got?
I am professional all the time.
Oh, God. Probably have to delete this out. What do you
Through LinkedIn. They're fake. But anyways.
Yeah.
Gas has hit $5.05 in Indianapolis truck stops. Last on Monday, it was $3.89.
Ouch! So you went from $3.89 on Monday to
Last Monday.
Last Monday. I mean, that's what I meant. Last Monday.
8 days ago.
8 days ago, you went from $3.89 to $5.05.
Yes.
Holy crap. $5.05. That's a big jump, bro.
On the southern part of the loop on 465 at both Lion J and whatever, Lion J and the fucking Petra.
Here in Tennessee, it went from $2.29 last week, same time.
That's bad. That's not good at all. At all. Thank you, Narc, for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the Narc report. That is the man on the road from Indianapolis. That's the Narc report. Where Narc has other reports.
Gasoline hasn't changed a whole lot yet. I mean, it's up. Gasoline is like $3.59, and it was, I don't know. I'll say it was just above $3, and just below $3. Maybe it was like $2.90s or something last week. But I mean, it's went up 60 cents, but it hasn't went up like $1 or nothing yet.
Holy crap, that's not good. Hey, put your gas.
Diesel's up.
Yeah, put how much you're paying for gas in the chat, if you would, please. Okay, let's go to this now. New section. All right, this section is sponsored by search carriers. So search carriers, actually, let me do this real quick. So I actually like this a lot. Landstar. Search carriers basically gives you an opportunity. Let's say Landstar Ligon, Landstar Gemini. Let's do Landstar Ligon. Basically, search carriers. No, we're not going to do Landstar Ligon. Let's do Landstar because there's Gemini, transportation logistics, global logistics. Let's try. How many is global logistics? Nope. Basically, what search carrier allows me to do is look up a whole bunch of information in regards to Ranger. There you are, Ranger. Hi, Ranger. In regards to everything from crashes to violations to stuff like that. All you have to do is either punch a DOT number in or a company name or let's do a DOT number, MC number, and it basically pulls up a ton of information in regards to the companies that you're looking at. Now, this is actually big if you're a freight broker or if you're insurance or anything like that. You can pull up a like I said, there's their brokerage. You can pull up a ton of their information. So you got to check this out. Thursday, I'm going to be doing more into this, but just go to searchcarriers.com and just type in your trucking company in here, and you'll be able to see your safety report. You'll be able to know if, hey, some of your drivers, actually, you know what's funny? You'll actually be able to know if one of your drivers got any type of inspections and didn't tell you about it, because you can actually set alerts and track that carrier, meaning your carrier, and keep track of any updates or any changes that are made to the FMCSA report, which is public data. Don't ask why I said that. But that's something good, too. So that is searchcarriers.com. I'll be doing some commercials of that. All right, let me go to the news here. All right, let me close this window. Let me close this window. Let me close this window. Okay. Just so you know, breaking report. Breaking news. Did you guys know Trucker Carlson's ALP starts national monument after grand theft of millions of dollars of nicotine patches? So basically, Tucker Carlson's got a big nicotine patch thing, and he starts a national manhunt after the grand theft. So he's out there basically saying, hey, national manhunt, find the guy that stole all of these ALP nicotine patches. I thought that was kind of weird. We're doing a manhunt for that, but we can't figure out the Epstein files. Either way, let's move on. Okay. Let me close this one. Let me close. Oh, yeah, just so you know, oil prices for a year were at $60, and Russia never collapsed. Sorry, Glenn. Okay, here we go. This is going to be, you guys may or may not know that the, in front of the Supreme Court not yesterday, I think the day before, a couple days ago. And I've been listening to the oral arguments in regards to broker liability in the Supreme Court. So right now, brokers have basically fall under a 4F? Yeah, the 4F area in regards to are they liable. So let me kind of explain this in a non-boring way, which is going to be very difficult because it's kind of boring. So unless you're in trucking. So if I'm a shipper hires someone like me, a freight broker agent, and basically says, hey, now this is very important if you're in trucking. So if you're not paying attention, if you're in trucking, you're not paying attention to anything else, pay attention here, okay? Because there will be a knee-jerk reaction, and you're not going to like it if you're a small trucking company or a trucking company in general. So,
hey, can you tell the truck drivers to pay attention again? Because they're not very smart, so they have to hear it 3 times. That's usually what makes your brain remember.
Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. That's all 3. I think I covered all 3. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that from the
You're
report. Okay. Right now, a shipper hires a freight broker who a freight broker's job is to try, and we get it right a lot of times, sometimes we get it wrong, to try to hire the safest carrier to be able to haul their freight. Safest and most reliable carrier to make sure it's there on time and all this other stuff. You know, okay? That's what a freight broker does. Now, that relinquishes a little bit of liability, but not all liability, because if somebody's in a traumatic accident where there's somebody's unalived or paralyzed or something happens, a lawyer's still going to sue everybody, okay? But right now, it falls under federal law. So because each state has different liabilities in regards to transportation.
Throw it in there.
Uh-oh. Right with you. Each state has different liabilities for that. So what the 4AA basically says, hey, because this cross state lines, because, each state has different liabilities, and it would be very difficult to keep track of the aspect of which state this lawsuit would fall under, and every trucking company and every freight broker needs to know which states they're going into. So we have to do things, to that. Hey, how's it going there, John? One of the things that we have is this exemption, this 4AA, which basically says that freight brokers, because they're not liable for the driver getting into an accident based on his safety scores and things like that, right? So this has gone to different courts, and the lower courts have leaned to the side of the freight broker, realizing that, hey, although a freight broker should be doing their job and trying to find the best carrier to do the job, there are unfortunately things that I don't know who the driver is going to be. I might hire a carrier that he might be the driver, or I might hire a carrier that has 20 drivers, or I might hire a carrier that has 1,000 drivers. I don't know which driver is going to be put on the load. I just know I've hired that carrier. Well, it's going to the Supreme Court to determine a couple things. One, what exactly is a motor carrier? Because that's kind of open for interpretation. You know, you've got rail, you've got air, you got a bunch of different things. So they're trying to figure that out. And two, is the freight broker liable for what happens with the driver? Basically, are they liable? Again, now right now in the lower courts, the freight brokerages have won these cases. So what happened basically is the freight brokerage said, hey, we're sick of going to court over this. We're sick of going to each state, and we now want to take it to the Supreme Court. Now, they went there hoping that the Supreme Court would side with all the lower courts, and it's a good possibility that they do. But no matter what happens on this is going to change the way freight brokers, small freight brokerages and large freight brokerages, look at carriers. Again, pay attention. If you don't pay attention to anything else, I am predicting the future here. And I'm predicting the future from many aspects. And I'll play this video here. So, as a freight broker, when I go to interpret that if a carrier is good or not, I use, some of the stuff that I use is the safety rating that they have on a public website called the FMCSA. Now, I normally go to it through their CSA scores, we call it. I normally go through it by going to FMCSA, and then I go to Google and I type in FMCSA snapshot, snapshot, and then it's like the first one, and I log in and I type a DOT number in. That's what Search Carriers does. Okay, and on Thursday when I do my show, I'm going to pull up a couple carriers we can take a look at. So that's why it's you guys need to look at Search Carriers. Anyways. The knee-jerk reaction, which is going to start to affect carriers, is going to be how important your compliance is your insurance and your compliance is going to become. If you are not watching your compliance, watching your safety scores, and maintaining proper levels of insurance, you will not get loads. I'm telling you right now, freight brokers are not going to, and shippers are going to tell us, don't put me under any risk. Because it's a possibility with this court lawsuit that's at the Supreme Court that shippers might also be just as liable for the decision that the freight broker makes. And if shippers are going to become liable, then I'm telling you right now, the restrictions that shippers are going to place on who I can use as a carrier and not use as a carrier is going to be largely based on a couple things. One, your safety scores. Two, they're not going to want me to randomly post to a load board because of fraud and because of insurance risks. They're going to basically say, look, we don't want you just posting our freight to a load board so that anybody can see it and anybody can put bids on it. We're going to want you to have carriers that you've thoroughly vetted. I'm talking thoroughly vetted before we allow them to be placed. They're going to start setting standards in regards to who they will allow. And you might start to have shippers say, we don't want carriers that have less than 2 years active authority. It's very possible. It's very possible. Because they're going to say, well, we want carriers that are better at their job, that we have a better opportunity at seeing their safety scores, that have been in the game longer. And I try to explain this to people a lot of times is you got to be careful what you ask for. Because if a shipper comes and says, look at Mr. Freight Broker, I want better carriers because I don't want to be at risk where I'm possibly opening myself up for a lawsuit because we picked the wrong carrier. You picked the wrong carrier for me. So your job, Mr. Freight Broker, I'm going to lean more heavily on you to make sure that you pick the right carrier. So it's not going to get rid of freight brokers because they're just going to be like, well, you're just going to have to do better at your job. So if you're a trucking company and you don't know your safety score, you don't know your compliance, you don't know how to fix your compliance, you don't know what a FMCSA data queue is, you don't know what a PSP is, you don't know these things, you better find somebody who does. If you don't have the proper insurance, if you don't have a proper A-rated insurance company, if you don't know what your exclusions are for your insurance, you don't know what your customer requires for levels of liability and cargo and surplus lines and umbrella and insurance, you're not doing it right. Look, and I go, some of these people are just going to put them to sleep, and it's going to be like, this is boring stuff. But it won't be boring when you're out looking for load. I got people calling me right now that are like, hey, I can't get any loads. And the loads that are getting, they're crap. They're crap loads. I took a call yesterday. And I'm like, well, he's leased on to somebody. And I'm like, who you leased on to? And he gave me the numbers. And I pulled up the numbers with I wonder if I could get the numbers. No, because he told them to me. I should have made him text them to me. I pulled them up with search carriers. And I'm like, bro, I would not give freight to this company. It's not going to happen. Your safety scores are horrible. I mean, your driver is a max of 5.5. You're supposed, if you're over 5.5 on your safety score, that's bad. And the driver rating was like 20 or 30. And then the equipment was a highest rating should be 20%, and it was like 60%. 60% out of service. 60% every time that truck went through a scale, 60% of the time it had broken shit on it, and it shouldn't have been out in the road. That's the gist of it. That's the gist of it. So these are the things that basically you have better start realizing your safety score. You have better start looking at your compliance. You have better start looking at the insurancing that you're carrying, because freight brokers and shippers are going to start asking questions. And when they start asking a question saying, hey, how does this affect me? Hey, what are the standards that you have? We're going to be a problem.
Vehicles.
Right.
Just a little bit ago, they were nuking tariffs, but somehow now we're hung up on the debate of defining.
God damn it, Charles. Okay, this is Charles from, he's on FreightWaves right here, but he's also on XM Radio. Friend of mine. He might not admit that, but I'll admit it just to make sure that he knows it. And now he has to admit it. I'm on XM Radio with him. I've been on Truck Sense with him. I've not been on FreightWaves with him, but I've been on FreightWaves. So this is Charles, and he's going to interview Dale Pax, and he's also going to interview who's the broker guy? I'm bad with names. Sorry, bro. I'll figure it out. But first off, Charles, the Supreme Court did not nuke tariffs. They basically said that the President of the United States of America cannot implement a tax, and a tariff is a tax. Congress still can, but let's move on.
Motor vehicles, which is nuts. When I was looking at this one, it was one of those things where the F4A federal law is at the center of this. So the law states that you cannot regulate prices, routes, or services of brokers and carriers. The goal of this is to keep the interstate freight moving. But there's a safety exception. The states cannot enforce laws related to motor vehicle safety. So where is the fight? Well, when a crash happens, plaintiffs are...
I'm on Road Dog Radio, so be, 146? Road Dog Radio, 146, when I go on there.
Arguing brokers should have known the carrier was unsafe. They sue for negligent carrier selection, and then the brokers are arguing federal law blocks these lawsuits. Courts across the country are split on this issue, which is why the Supreme Court has stepped in. And what is SCOTUS trying to decide on this? Well, where does the responsibility end? Does it end at the carrier, or does it extend to the broker, possibly even the shipper, depending on how this falls? And we're going to talk about this and more when Dale Pax comes on, because there's a lot to dissect here, and they're just in the comment period. They're having their verbal arguments on this, and it's progressing pretty fast. This is one of the articles and the movements that are happening in freight right now that are they're going to define freight tomorrow, and we need to understand it.
Well, it's not going to probably be defined until probably July. We probably won't hear back from the Supreme Court till July.
I couldn't think of a better person to help us understand it than my guy, Dale Prax, the founder of Freight Validate and consultant to truckstop.com. Dale, my friend, welcome to Brake Check.
Hey, Charles, always great to see you. I really wanted to drive over to Chattanooga today to be with you in person, but, my schedule doesn't allow it. But next time, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, the team over here at FreightWaves has done an amazing job of giving me a new little home. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice.
You know what is also cool is freight's getting a spotlight that it's much needed for a long time. Some people feel differently. You and I have had this discussion on broker liability and things like broker transparency, but SCOTUS has broker liability at their doorstep right now. It's on their desk that they're evaluating a lot of things. What I found really odd is just a week ago, we were talking about how they nuke tariffs, but they're hung up on defining motor vehicles right now.
Swear to God, Charles. We got to have a conversation, bro. Me and you.
That is absolutely absurd.
Yeah. There was, I listened to, I was about almost 2 hours of oral arguments yesterday with the Supreme Court, and then about 131 pages, I think the transcripts were. So there's a lot to digest in there. It was really kind of cool to see that, I think that the justices team.
Dale, why did you read the transcripts and listen to the oral arguments? You can just listen to the oral arguments.
Teams did a pretty good job of telling them a lot of the things that go on in trucking. But, quite often you hear, court cases where the judge really doesn't know too much about trucking, but I think they're pretty well versed in a lot of things. A lot of things they talk about with the shipper and the carriers and those kind of things back and forth. I think what they're really trying to do is decide whether choosing a safe trucking company is part of highway safety, or is it just part of the broker's business service in choosing that carrier. So there were some really pretty good arguments on both sides. But I guess we'll see what happens. It's kind of cool to see that trucking is finally getting the attention it deserves, rather than just the bad stuff that everybody hears about trucking. We're starting to hear how to fix some things that we've all been talking about for many years.
Well, and that's kind of what we set out to do with this show. Like, there's tons of people out there that are going to show you PowerPoints and spreadsheets, and a lot of people think that, those are going to tell you how you should feel. That's not what we're doing here on Brake Check. We're talking to the people of freight. We're talking to the people that make up this wonderful industry and seeing how they truly feel, staying away from the PowerPoints. There's tons of smart people just in this facility alone that are going to break those numbers down, talk about the freight rates, the rejection rates, all that fun jazz. I want to talk about the people that make up this industry, and you are one of those people out there. You've been talking about this stuff long before it was cool to talk about it. So let's talk about what you're listening to and what you're hearing in these oral arguments and what stood out the most thus far.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I quote you quite often, something you say is, let's stop looking at spreadsheets and talk to drivers in the seats, right? So I think that's become really a way of doing business. And I think the administration and the agency are listening to that same kind of, great idea. Let's start talking to the people that are actually turning the wheels, the guys behind the wheel rather than the guy sitting behind a desk. But some of the things that I thought were, listening to the questions of the justices is, I think one of the concerns of the court is that if these lawsuits are allowed, would it have us legislating the brokers or through litigation or through legislation? If we're just going to take everybody to court, that's one thing they're worried about. They're also concerned about, is this an intrastate issue or an interstate issue? Should it go as far as the shipper? One of the justices, I think it was Justice Thomas, spoke about, well, our shippers going to be held liable when this, as a result of this law or this ruling. And I think that one of the attorneys said that over the last several years that some shippers hire brokers specifically so they're not held liable, that the broker takes on the liability. So there's a lot to really talk about just with those sort of ideas and notions. It's a big deal.
Well, it's not that they just to get rid of liability, because everybody knows that if it gets that bad, everybody's getting sued. It's to help alleviate the liability by hiring a freight broker who should be a professional at their job enough to know how to basically hire the best carrier for the job. And proper equipment. And it's not just based on safety scores. It's also proper equipment. Is the carrier, have I used that carrier before? Do they deliver on time? Are they a good communicator? So there's a lot of factors.
There's a lot at stake here. Depending on where you sit in the industry, we know that there's mixed feelings on this. There's some people that think broker liability is important. And then there's others that say, hey, this is overreach, and where does it stop? Is it going to then extend to the shipper next? And ultimately, we know where people are trying to get. They're trying to get to that shipper. That shipper's been immune for accountability for a while, and there's a lot of arguments on to as why that exists. If I'm a driver out there right now, and I look at the last 3 years, I can understand with the driver's hat on why broker liability seems like a legitimate pathway, not only to get to the shipper, but also to hold the brokers accountable, because you do have carriers out there that are operating less than ideal. They're running there at an all-time low cost, which allows them to bid at a low cost, and they're underbidding the American trucker left and right.
Well, again, they're just underbidding truckers, because American truckers can underbid truckers also, right? So that's, if I can be an American trucker with no truck payment, no trailer payment, and you're an American trucker with a large truck payment, large trailer payment, I can outbid you. I can underbid you. So it's just truckers underbidding truckers, right? So we don't have to say American trucker, not American trucker. Let's get that out of mind, because I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes to the first thing that it's going to come to with this is going to be the broker, who's going to basically be looking at the numbers, the math. Not, American, not American, if you've got a bad safety score, and it maybe like right now, my shipper doesn't allow, there's 3 categories: hazmat, driver, and vehicle maintenance. And those are the categories that will get you points. Well, right now, my shipper only allows 1. If you have both high vehicle and high driver, you can't haul the freight. You're automatically out. That was what we came to. Now that eliminates some, because even if you're 1 point over, if you're 5.5 is the national average and you're 6, you're out. If your vehicle is also over. So what this is going to do, just so everybody knows, is cause a knee-jerk reaction from freight brokers who are basically going to start eliminating you if you don't have an ELD. Now, some trucks that are older than the year 2000 technically was the cutoff. Some trucks don't need an ELD. Short mileage trucks don't need an ELD under 50 miles. But they're going to make it where if you don't have an ELD, I don't care if your truck is exempt. You're not hauling my freight. If you don't have insurance of $2,250,000, you're not hauling my freight. If you have any over the national average, you're not hauling my freight. So there could be a knee-jerk reaction to preventing drivers from getting freight. If you don't have more than 5 trucks, you're not hauling my freight. These are the things that could happen with the ruling, because they could look at that and say, well, if you don't have more than 5 trucks, you don't have a big enough footprint to give me liability if you do end up hitting somebody, right? If you have 5 trucks, you're probably a bigger company and you have more to lose than if you just have 1 truck and you can go bankrupt tomorrow, right?
You've been on the Sirius show with me when we're on Truck and Sense talking to the drivers. We had Bullwinkle call in and say, hey, ever since they started cracking down on, these less than ideal carriers, he's finally seeing OTR freight for the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's what
until his compliance, again, if his compliance goes out the window, he's going to stop seeing OTR freight.
What's at stake when you're in the driver's perspective, but when you're a broker looking at this, the small broker.
Yeah.
This is a pretty intimidating thing that's on deck right now. This is something that could change the landscape for brokers throughout the nation.
Correct. Now remember, he just said it. If it's going to change my landscape, I'm going to change the way I do things that are going to protect me and my shipper. And that might hurt some of the truck drivers that are out there.
Yeah, I think one thing that's very important that brokers and shippers both need to do is stop using pricing as a key performance indicator, as a KPI. We have to start looking.
We don't use pricing as a sole KPI. That's just not true.
Looking at, is a safe driver? Is he legal to drive? Is he qualified to drive? Is a carrier qualified to drive? So, I would like to see a report that shows when there's a motor vehicle accident, what were the rates involved in that thing? What did the driver get paid for that? Because I'm sure that you're going to see in most motor vehicle accidents that the driver that was involved in that, usually their equipment's not maintained and they're probably the low bidder on the spectrum.
Not true. During COVID, and we actually have this stat, and I'll see if I can pull it. We actually see that during the best trucking time, trucking made the most money during COVID, that we still saw the most repairs needed. So truck drivers are not using that money to fix their trucks. They might have been using that money to buy Ferraris, but they weren't using that money to keep up maintenance on their trucks. Now, again, a lot of truck drivers, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type situation, but they weren't using that money to fix it. So we actually saw worse. We paid when more money was being offered, we actually saw worse in regards to maintenance to the vehicles.
So I think that's important.
Most likely because they were running their trucks harder to make that money and not stopping their trucks to put it back into the truck.
To understand the regulation, the ruling on this, but also we have to look at too, from the broker side, what is their benchmark to determine if the driver or the carrier is safe to operate? When you have 94% of the motor carriers on our highways don't have a safety rating at all, so we don't know if they're safe, we don't know if they're unsafe.
That could be a problem, right? That's a good question. So if 94% of the carriers that are out there then don't, our new benchmark's going to be different. My benchmark might be, I have a question for you. What is your procedures your hiring procedures? Do you have a test or hiring procedures in regards to English language proficiency? Do you give them a test? I mean, you test for alcohol and drugs. Do you give a test? And send me a copy of that test. What do they have to read to you? What do they have to write to you? Oh, you don't do that? Well, then make one and call me back. What is your maintenance guidelines? Are you inspecting the truck quarterly, like Landstar, or are you inspecting the truck yearly? On your own maintenance reports, show me maintenance reports of the vehicles that you've been doing. Do you want the freight broker to start doing that? That you have to start submitting your maintenance reports because I don't have a safety score? These are things that if I am now going to be liable for you, if you're in a wreck because you don't properly maintain your vehicle, well, then I'm going to have to start babysitting. Now, understand, if I have to start babysitting, that costs me more money. So now I have to take more money to babysit you. I always like it where I pay you money to babysit me. That's normally what I tell my carriers. But this is the stuff. What's your insurance levels?
We don't know. We just don't know. So a broker has to kind of decide that. We look at SMS scores, and those are only, on the.
This is what I now do. One of the things I now do for a living. I work for an insurance company that I'm a transportation risk specialist, advisor, basically, analyst, whatever term you want to use it. Compliance. Do you know, like I said, your compliance is going to be huge. You might not get freight if you have anything stupid on your compliance.
The motor vehicles that were inspected or had a roadside inspection or an audit. So there's a lot of those trucks that don't get audited, obviously. So we have to look at those. I think that a couple words that are really important when it comes to SCOTUS is negligence is one. Did the carrier know or should have known? I'm sorry. Did the broker or shipper know or should have known that this driver and carrier weren't qualified and made a decision?
Problem is I don't know if the driver wasn't qualified because, like I said, if you were an owner operator with one truck, well, I know you because you're the driver. But if you're a carrier with 20, 30, 40, 50 trucks, how do I know which driver is going to go on it? A lot of times I don't.
Knowing that information, that becomes negligence. If a shipper sees a driver in his lot and the driver's drunk, for instance, and he gets in a crash, that shipper needs to be held accountable because he knew or should have known there's going to be a problem.
Well, I do think it's a double-edged sword, too. If you start asking brokers to be liable.
Yeah, we saw the same thing with ships during COVID. They were pulling ships out of the scrapyard to basically haul containers because the money was so good that they didn't care about the ships anymore. Pull them out. Let's rock and roll. Let's get them rocking and moving. And I think the same thing was happening during COVID with trucks. It just keep it moving, keep it going, go, and they weren't really doing as much maintenance.
Brokers have to naturally protect their business. That's their interest. If I'm a
No, I have to protect everybody's business. I have to protect me, I have to protect the carrier, and I have to protect the shipper.
Broker, and I've been found, like say they rule against brokers on this, and now I can be liable, I'm going to want to have that driver's work history. I'm going to want to have that driver's driving history. That's pretty intrusive. How are drivers going to feel about that, knowing that this is the next progression?
And me and Charles had this conversation. Do I get a PSP? Maybe I might now send you a waiver, and now you are going to have to approve me running your PSP. And then I go to the FMCSA and I run a PSP on you. Personal something, I can't remember. And it cost me like $10, and I get to see every ticket that you got with the FMCSA. Do I get to run your MVR? Your motor vehicle report? Can I see if you've got any speeding tickets? Or any lane changes or failed to yield to a traffic control? Can I run that? Are you okay with that? Because I got no choice now.
And if it's ruled against brokers, they're going to want that stuff.
Yeah, and there are privacy laws that don't allow them to get it. So now what do we do, right? So that's...
You sign waivers, or you don't haul my freight. My trucking company will be like, yeah, that's fine. You sign a waiver, or you don't get my freight.
That becomes a double-edged sword. I think another issue is, depending on which way the SCOTUS rules, is this a national issue, or are they covered by national regulation, or are they covered by state regulations? If we have 50 states making 50 different...
Wait, Dale, there's your answer. Sign a waiver.
Rules in interstate commerce, that's going to cause an issue.
Well, that's what led us to the Supreme Court right now. You had states ruling in different ways to try to navigate that as a carrier, as a broker. You can't efficiently move freight if each state has its own set of rules for who's liable. And naturally, it was going to land in the Supreme Court. We got SCOTUS on it. I'm a little disappointed that where SCOTUS is hanging its hat right now debating about what defines a motor carrier. Like, I think it's easily defined.
It's not easily defined, Charles. It's not easily defined what a motor carrier is. And we don't want it to be easily defined, right? Because we want things to be opened up when they get opened up. Is the rail a motor carrier? Do they fall under this? Does air traffic fall under this? Does a pickup truck hauling Amazon packages fall under this? That's why it's no longer easily defined. Does a drone fall under this? Does a I don't know what they're called, the robot that carries packages on the land now, I don't even know what they're calling, robot delivery package, does that fall under this? Like, so it's not an e-bike. Exactly. Does an e-bike defined as a motor carrier? It's not easily defined anymore.
And if they need help, I'm happy to throw myself into the ring and define that for them.
Define it for me then. I just gave you examples. Define it for me. Pick one.
Yeah, what is a commercial motor vehicle?
Does an e-bike, what's it?
Well, it's defined in 49 CFR pretty clearly. It's, everyone knows kind of what it is. But I mean,
It's actually not. That's why the Supreme Court's hearing this. Because does an e-bike carrying a package on a bicycle rack in the back who cuts out in front of a car and ends up having the car get into an accident in a head-on collision with another car who kills the other person, was that a commercial motor vehicle? Right? Difficult to define, right?
big task in front of them because this isn't just a black and white, red, black. It's a lot of gray areas in there. We talk about driver privacy. We talk about labor issues, who's responsible to carrier, CDL issues, all those kind of things. It's there's a lot to be talking about that in that whole arena.
Well, and you've been talking about that. You were on LinkedIn recently talking about it. Tell us a little bit about what you're trying to communicate to people so they fully understand the magnitude of the decision that's about to be made.
Well, I think everybody should take a look at the transcript. I think you should listen to the.
I like Charles. Me and Charles, but he's a good guy. We can go back and forth with discourse too.
The oral arguments. I think you should have conversations about it. I think that the court really is going to make some important decisions, and we have to be ready for that. I think that there are two bills in Congress right now that are kind of coincidentally or non-coincidentally ready for this decision to come out. One of them is a bill that would require brokers to be held liable up to 10% of the value of the goods they're hauling in that vehicle at that particular time. The other gives the brokers some information on how to vet a carrier and regulations on how to do that. So I think that there's, no matter how the court rules, there's going to be someone in Congress to make a rule that, or a law or statute that counteracts that ruling or supports the ruling.
Absolutely. So if the court says that brokers are now responsible, what's that do to the fundamentals of verification? Who's that burden now going to be placed on?
It's going to be placed heavily on the broker. Obviously, it's going to be placed heavily. The shipper is going to ask the broker to do even more because eventually it's going to go down to the shipper.
True. It's convention going to go down to the shipper. So now I have to do more for my shipper's going to come to me and say, "What are you doing to protect me?"
Secretary Duffy said in press conferences several times that shippers need to be held to account. I think that's not going to change. I think that's going to be even amplified. I think that the carriers are going to require the brokers to do better. The shippers are going to require the brokers to do better. The brokers' shareholders are going to require them to do better. It used to be, I think, that the folks on the dock weren't talking to the folks in the front office. So a lot of times, maybe that guy in the front office that eventually has to handle the claim doesn't know what his guy in the dock's doing. Like, go ahead and load this guy, just get him off my dock. I think we're going to see closer relationships between the dock and the front office and most of these brokerage offices and shippers.
Well, and you and I have talked about it. Just based on everything that's happening in the industry right now, it's all pointing to a drive away from transactional freight and more towards the relationship. That's how we fight the fraud. That's how we deal with accountability. And that's also how you build a more sustainable foundation for your business. The fact that we've gotten so transactional is a symptom of the trucking we deserve, not the one that everyone else in the trucking industry deserves.
Yeah, I think that every action has a reaction. We're starting to see more bad guys go off the road. And the more bad guys we get off the road...
we're starting to see good guys go off the road, to be honest. That's the problem, too. We're seeing good guys and bad guys go off the road. And I want to be honest. I don't want to be the echo chamber here. We're seeing both go off the road.
Safer the carriers become, the less chance a broker has of picking a bad carrier because hopefully...
less chance I have of picking a good carrier, to be honest. Good carriers are going off the road.
At the end, if everything goes the way it should, we're going to start driving.
I remember, the way the system's skewed right now, you can have 0 inspections, right? All of a sudden, you get 1 inspection, and that 1 inspection gets you for an out-of-service. Cop could have had a bad day. Now you have a 50% out-of-service rating. You're done. You're done for 1 inspection.
Driving out the bad guys, the cream will rise to the top. We'll get more good carriers and drivers to come into the platform that are really in it for the right reasons. And for every bad guy we see out there, there's 10,000 good guys. So yeah. I think that we're going to see, by default, a broker having less opportunity to pick a bad guy because there'll be less of them on the road.
I love that. So carriers have a lot to pay attention to right now outside of this, which is huge.
Problem is, and I understand what Dale's doing, but the problem is the interpretation of good guy and bad guy. Stop it. It's all a math problem now. Because when it comes to the court, they're going to say, how did you determine? Show me how you determine that. Well, I thought he was a good guy. I thought he was going to do the right thing. Well, how did you come to that determination? They're going to ask for facts. When you go to court, it's not about feelings. It's about what I can present as a fact. And I'm going to have to say, well, his safety score was this. And he didn't have any points. And so if your safety score is bad, you're out. And so it's not good guys and bad guys. It's good safety scores and bad safety scores. And a good carrier can get a bad safety score today. Right?
Carriers are watching it, drivers are watching it, and brokers are certainly watching it. There's a couple things happening simultaneously, like the UCR deadline. And this is something that kind of shocked me when you're like, hey, I want to remind people. So let's start simple. What is UCR and what do people need to be paying attention to?
Unified Carrier Registration.
There's a federally mandated program that requires companies to involved in interstate commerce to register and pay an annual fee based on the number of commercial motor vehicles they operate. The program helps states fund highway safety enforcement and oversight in the trucking industry. So The unified carrier registration is basically an annual registration and fee that interstate trucking companies and brokers have to file.
He's reading it.
So states can fund trucking enforcement, safety enforcement. There's a lot of people that don't like this regulation, think it's overkill and just paying more fees and taxes and all those kind of things. And I probably tend to agree with that. But
I agree with that because it's not set up properly. I would like to have something set up where it establishes how many trucks you have and you pay for that. So if you have one truck, you pay this amount. If you have two trucks, you have this amount. 3 trucks, this amount. 4 trucks, this amount. Not just 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 100. It's just that's just ridiculous.
I think used properly, it could have some implications. I think that as part of the UCR, maybe there needs to be a closer look at the registration of the company. Did it get sold since its last UCR update? I think there's some work we could do with it. But disagree or agree with it, it is a statutory requirement to file your UCR every year if you're interstate commerce, freight forwarder, carrier, or broker. And we're seeing in our platform that there are a lot of folks that have not done it yet, and the deadline was December 31st of 2025. So I would encourage everyone.
All right, I'm going to end up ending this one here, but because I've got a meeting at. I got a meeting in 20 minutes in regards to going over compliance with the carrier. So if you guys need help in any way, shape, or form with your insurance, you need an insurance quote, you're an open deck carrier, and you need an insurance, you need help with compliance, you want to check your compliance, you want to make sure that you're looking good and set up that type of things, you better start doing it now. I'm telling you, you better start doing it now. Compliance is going to be a huge factor coming up. And we're starting to get right now, freight brokers are starting to do it right now in regards to ELDs. If you don't have an ELD, you can't haul my freight. I don't care if your truck is exempt. You don't have this much insurance, you can't haul my freight. You've got this much of a safety score, you can't haul my freight. These are things freight brokers are going to start to do. So if you need help with that, reach out to me. My phone number is on the screen. You can text me at that number, or you can go to oversizeinsurance.com and you can book an appointment with me. If you want to know what your carriers are doing, or you're a freight broker and you want to know what other carriers are doing, check out Search Carriers. I'll be doing a couple videos on them. And then if you need factoring, reach out to Wex. And besides that, thank God Justin and Truck Diver are gone. I'm getting sick of them too. And I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. See ya. Oh, hang on. Let me hit the button again. Bye.
Hear the echoes in the night sky, where stars and headlights entwine. Tales of diesel and determination, living life beyond the white line.
On a desert stretch where silence roars, tires hum a solemn tune. Every journey writes its saga in the glow of the highway moon.
Sage outcast, Portage, where the big lows, big roads meet, talking miles, talking metro. Every rig, every route, every week, Sage outcast. From the yard to the last white line. If it's trucking and bones, deep hustle. You tune into that state of mind. Keep the fire burning bright.
While the world fades into night, through the miles, through the time, we ride on in the endless climb.
Okay. Sage, I'm sorry. Please don't record this.